Voluntary Hardship, the path to inner strength. Life is comfortable, too comfortable. We live in an age of convenience where nearly anything we desire is just a click away. But what if this constant comfort is secretly making us weaker? This audiobook is about a simple yet powerful idea: voluntarily choosing hardship to build unshakable inner strength. We'll explore how stepping out of your comfort zone, even in small ways, can lead to a more resilient, focused, and fulfilling life. Forget boring theories. We're diving into real stories and practical steps to help you reclaim your inner power. Before we begin, I have a question for you. What is one small, comfortable habit you have that you think you could live without for just one day? It could be anything from your morning coffee to scrolling on your phone before bed. Take a moment to think about it and share your answer in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to see what you come up with. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Comfort Crisis. Why we've become soft. We stand at a unique moment in human history. For the vast majority of our existence, the daily life of a human being was defined by struggle. The struggle for food, the struggle for shelter, the struggle against the elements, the struggle against predators and disease. Hardship was not an option. It was the default setting of life itself. Our bodies and our minds were forged in this crucible of constant challenge. We are the descendants of the survivors, the ones who were strong enough, smart enough, and resilient enough to navigate a world that was largely indifferent to their survival. Every single one of your ancestors overcame incredible odds just for you to be here, listening to these words right now. They endured winters that would have frozen the life out of a lesser person. They hunted animals that could have easily hunted them. They walked for miles upon miles in search of better lands. And they did it all without the modern conveniences we now consider basic necessities. This is the legacy that runs through your veins. The capacity for immense strength and resilience is not something you need to acquire. It is something you need to rediscover. It is your birthright. The paradox of our time is that we have become victims of our own success. In our relentless pursuit of comfort and convenience, we have systematically engineered struggle out of our daily lives. Think about your average day. You wake up in a climate-controlled room, not because you chopped wood for a fire, but because a thermostat silently maintains the perfect temperature. If you are hungry, you do not need to hunt or forage. You can open a refrigerator packed with food from all corners of the globe, or with a few taps on your smartphone, have a hot meal delivered directly to your door within minutes. You travel in a comfortable air-conditioned vehicle, covering distances in an hour that would have taken our ancestors days of grueling travel on foot. For entertainment, you have instant access to a near-infinite library of movies, shows, music, and games, all designed to capture your attention and keep you pleasurably distracted. We are living in a veritable utopia of ease, a world that our ancestors could not have even fathomed in their wildest dreams. But this utopia has a dark side. This world without sharp edges, this padded, sanitized existence, is making us soft. The human mind and body are incredibly adaptive organisms. They respond to the demands placed upon them. When you consistently lift heavy weights at the gym, your muscles respond by growing stronger. The stress of the weight signals to your body that it needs to adapt to handle that load in the future. The same principle applies to our minds, our willpower, and our spirit. When we are never forced to endure discomfort, when our every need is instantly met, when we are shielded from any form of hardship, we begin to atrophy. Our resilience muscle, the very thing that allowed our species to survive and thrive for millennia, begins to waste away from lack of use. This is the comfort crisis. It is the silent epidemic of our time, a slow and subtle erosion of our inner strength that leaves us fragile, anxious, and ill-equipped to handle the inevitable challenges that life throws our way. A study published in the journal Emotion in 2011 by psychologist Nicholas S. Rule and his colleagues found that people have become less likely to use words associated with negative emotions in their writing over the past century, suggesting a cultural shift towards avoiding or suppressing discomfort. While this might sound positive on the surface, it points to a decreased tolerance for the very experiences that build character. The symptoms of this crisis are all around us, even if we do not recognize them for what they are. We see it in rising rates of anxiety and depression, particularly among young people who have grown up in this hyper-convenient world. According to the World Health Organization, depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide and is a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. While the causes are complex, it's impossible to ignore the correlation between our increasingly comfortable lifestyles and our declining mental well-being. When you never have to push through genuine difficulty, your threshold for what you consider a crisis becomes dangerously low. A minor inconvenience, like a slow internet connection or a delayed package, can trigger a disproportionate stress response. A critical comment from a boss or a disagreement with a friend can feel like a devastating personal attack. We have lost our perspective, our ability to differentiate between a real threat and a temporary discomfort. This is because our nervous systems, which were designed to handle the acute stress of, say, facing a saber-toothed tiger, are now being constantly activated by 1,000 tiny, trivial stressors that our comfortable lives have taught us to perceive as major threats. This softening is not just mental, it is deeply physical. Look at the health statistics in the developed world. Rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease are skyrocketing. These are often referred to as diseases of civilization, and for good reason. They are the direct result of a lifestyle that involves too much sitting, too much processed food, and not enough physical exertion. Our bodies were designed to move, to hunt, to gather, to build. They crave physical stress. When we deny them this, they begin to break down. A 2017 study in the Annals of Internal Medicine concluded that even if you exercise regularly, sitting for prolonged periods is associated with a higher risk of death. The modern office job, the epitome of a comfortable, climate-controlled existence, is in many ways more dangerous to our long-term health than the physically demanding labor of our ancestors. We have traded the acute dangers of the wild for the chronic, slow-burn diseases of a sedentary life. So how do we begin to fight back against this creeping softness? The first and most crucial step is to conduct what I call a comfort audit. You cannot solve a problem until you fully understand its scope. A comfort audit is a simple but powerful exercise in self-awareness. It requires you to take an honest look at your daily life and identify the areas where you have outsourced your effort and eliminated all forms of discomfort. This is not an exercise in guilt or self-criticism. The goal is not to feel bad about the conveniences you enjoy. The goal is simply to see with clear eyes how deeply embedded the pursuit of ease has become in your routine. It is about taking inventory of the padded walls you have built around yourself, so you can then consciously choose to dismantle them one small brick at a time. This process is the beginning of reclaiming your power. It is the moment you stop being a passive consumer of comfort and start being an active architect of your own character. Let's get practical and break down how to perform this audit. I want you to take out a piece of paper or open a new document on your computer. We are going to divide your life into a few key domains. Let's start with the physical domain. Ask yourself these questions and write down your honest answers. How do you move your body each day? Do you always take the elevator instead of the stairs? Do you drive your car for a distance you could easily walk or bike? When you are at home, do you spend most of your time sitting on a comfortable couch or in a plush chair? Now think about temperature. Is your home and office always at a perfect, stable temperature? Do you avoid going outside if it is too hot, too cold, or raining? Do you immediately reach for a sweater at the slightest chill or blast the air conditioning at the first bead of sweat? Be brutally honest. Think about your food. How much of your food is pre-packaged, pre-cut, or delivered to your door? How often do you cook a meal from scratch, involving the physical acts of chopping, stirring, and standing over a stove? How often do you choose the sugary, fatty, hyper-palatable option over the simple, natural, and more nutritious one simply because it provides a more immediate sense of pleasure and comfort? Write it all down. Next, let's move to the mental domain. This is about how you engage with your own mind. What do you do in the moments between activities? The second you have a free moment, in a line at the grocery store, waiting for a friend, or sitting on the bus, do you immediately pull out your smartphone? Do you fill every second of silence with a podcast, music, or a video? When was the last time you were truly bored, just sitting with your own thoughts without any external stimulation? Boredom has become a sensation we fear and avoid at all costs, but it is often the precursor to creativity and deep thinking. Now consider how you handle challenges and learning. Do you tend to stick to activities and subjects you are already good at, or do you actively seek out things that are difficult and force you to struggle? When you encounter a problem, is your first instinct to look for the quickest, easiest solution, perhaps by searching for the answer online? Or do you spend time wrestling with the problem yourself, allowing your mind to work and build new connections? When you read, do you choose challenging books that introduce new ideas and expand your vocabulary, or do you stick to light, easy entertainment? The point here is to assess whether you are actively strengthening your mind or just passively consuming mental junk food. Finally, let's audit the emotional domain. This might be the most difficult, but also the most important. How do you respond to difficult emotions? When you feel anxious, sad, or angry, what is your go-to coping mechanism? Do you distract yourself with television, food, or social media? Do you immediately seek reassurance from others to quell your discomfort? Or do you allow yourself to actually feel the emotion, to sit with the discomfort and investigate its source without judgment? Think about your relationships. Do you avoid difficult conversations in order to keep the peace? Do you shy away from giving or receiving honest feedback because it feels uncomfortable? Do you surround yourself only with people who agree with you, creating an echo chamber that protects you from challenging perspectives? True emotional strength is not about never feeling bad. It is about developing the capacity to tolerate and learn from difficult emotional states. It is about having the courage to be vulnerable and to engage with the world in an authentic way, even when it is messy and uncomfortable. Once you have completed your comfort audit, you will have a map. This map will show you the exact places in your life where you have chosen the path of least resistance. You might be surprised or even a little shocked by what you find. You might realize that you have not taken the stairs in years, that you cannot remember the last time you felt truly hungry, or that you have not had a single day in the last decade without the constant companionship of your phone. Again, do not despair. This awareness is a gift. It is the starting point of your transformation. Every single item on your list is not a failure, it is an opportunity. It is a doorway to building strength. Each time you choose the stairs, you are casting a vote for a stronger version of yourself. Each time you endure a moment of boredom without reaching for your phone, you are reclaiming your focus. Each time you have that difficult conversation, you are building emotional courage. The journey of embracing voluntary hardship does not start with a grand, dramatic gesture. You do not need to go live in a cave or run an ultramarathon tomorrow. That is a recipe for failure and burnout. It starts with the small choices. It starts with choosing the slightly less comfortable path, consistently, day after day. It is about choosing to walk to the store instead of driving. It is about taking a cold shower for 30 seconds at the end of your regular hot shower. It is about making the conscious decision to leave your phone in another room for an hour. It is about cooking a simple meal instead of ordering takeout. Each of these small acts is like a single rep in the gym for your resilience muscle. Individually, they may seem insignificant, but compounded over time, they will forge you into a person of incredible inner strength. They will recalibrate your nervous system, teaching it that discomfort is not a threat to be avoided at all costs, but a signal for growth. Remember, the goal is not to make your life miserable. The goal is to make your life more meaningful. The strange paradox is that a life dedicated to the relentless pursuit of comfort often ends up being deeply unsatisfying. The things that bring us the most profound and lasting sense of fulfillment are almost always the things that require effort, struggle, and sacrifice. Think about the proudest moments of your life. Were they moments of ease and consumption, or were they moments when you overcame a significant challenge? Maybe it was finishing a difficult project at work, running your first 5K race, mastering a new skill, or navigating a tough period in a relationship. These are the moments that build self-respect. These are the moments that prove to you what you are capable of. By intentionally injecting small, manageable doses of hardship into your comfortable life, you are not punishing yourself. You are preparing yourself. You are training for the non-negotiable difficulties that life will inevitably send your way. Sickness, loss, failure, and heartbreak are not optional. They are part of the human experience. The question is not whether you will face hardship, but how you will respond when you do. Will you be fragile, brittle, and easily broken? Or will you be strong, flexible, and resilient, able to bend without breaking and to rise again after you fall? The choice is yours. You can continue down the path of least resistance, allowing your inner strength to slowly wither away in a cocoon of comfort, or you can make a different choice. You can choose to honor the legacy of your ancestors. You can choose to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. You can choose to intentionally step out of your comfort zone, to embrace the friction and the struggle, and to forge yourself into someone who is not just a survivor, but a thriver. Someone who does not just endure life, but who actively engages with it in all of its messy, beautiful, and challenging glory. Your journey starts now with the awareness you gained from your comfort audit. Look at your map. Pick one small, insignificant area. And today, just for today, choose the harder path. Choose the stairs. Choose the silence. Choose the struggle. This is the first step on the path to inner strength. It is the first step back to who you were always meant to be. You are not weak. You have just been living in a world that has tricked you into believing you are. It is time to prove that world wrong. It is time to wake up the giant within you. Chapter 2. The Ancient Wisdom of Voluntary Hardship. The idea that choosing difficulty can lead to a better life is not a new age self-help concept. It is not a trendy life hack you will find in a viral social media post. This is an ancient, timeless truth. A piece of wisdom that has been discovered and rediscovered by the greatest thinkers, warriors, and spiritual leaders across countless cultures and throughout human history. It is a golden thread that runs through the very fabric of human philosophy, connecting us to our most resilient ancestors. For thousands of years, long before we had thermostats and food delivery apps, wise men and women understood a fundamental principle. The deliberate practice of enduring hardship is the most effective path to virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. They knew that a person who has not been tested cannot be trusted, least of all by themselves. They knew that true strength is not forged in the lap of luxury, but in the fires of adversity. By exploring this ancient wisdom, we are not just taking a historical tour. We are equipping ourselves with a mental toolkit that has been pressure tested for centuries. We are learning from the masters of the art of living. Let us journey back in time to the bustling streets and stoas of ancient Greece and Rome. Here, a powerful philosophy of life took root, one that has experienced a massive resurgence in popularity in our modern, comfort-addled times. This philosophy is Stoicism. For the Stoics, who included a Roman emperor, a famous playwright, and a former slave. The goal of life was to live in accordance with nature, to cultivate virtue, and to achieve a state of inner tranquility called apatheia, not to be confused with modern apathy, but rather a state of being undisturbed by external events. And what was their primary training method for achieving this unshakable inner peace? You guessed it, voluntary hardship. The Stoics were pioneers in the art of intentionally making their lives harder in order to become stronger. They did not do this out of a desire for self-punishment, but out of a profound understanding of human psychology. They knew that our minds, left to their own devices, are prone to anxiety, fear, and an insatiable desire for more. They understood that the more comfort and luxury we have, the more we fear losing it. The person who has only ever known luxury is terrified of poverty. The person who has only ever known praise is devastated by criticism. The person who has only ever known perfect health lives in constant fear of sickness. One of the most powerful advocates for this practice was Lucius Annaeus Seneca, a brilliant writer, a tutor to the infamous Emperor Nero, and one of the wealthiest men in Rome. From his position of immense privilege, Seneca could have lived a life of unimaginable ease. Instead, he wrote extensively about the importance of intentionally practicing poverty and misfortune. In one of his letters to his friend Lucilius, he wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This was not a theoretical exercise for Seneca. He actively practiced what he preached. He would periodically sleep on the hard floor, eat only stale bread and water, and wear his roughest clothes, all to inoculate himself against the fear of loss. He was training his mind. He was teaching himself on a deep experiential level that he could not only survive with less, but that he could still find contentment. He was proving to himself that his happiness was not dependent on his external circumstances. Can you imagine the power of this? To know, not just to think, but to know in your bones that you would be okay if you lost your job, your wealth, or your social status. That is a form of freedom that no amount of money can buy. Let's translate Seneca's practice into our modern world. What would it look like for you to practice poverty for a day or a weekend? It might mean eating only simple, cheap foods like rice and beans. It might mean forgoing all forms of paid entertainment and finding joy in simple, free activities like walking in a park, reading a library book, or having a deep conversation with a friend. It might mean turning off your air conditioning on a hot day or your heating on a cold one for a few hours, just to experience the mild discomfort and appreciate the comfort you normally take for granted. It might mean leaving your wallet at home and only carrying a small amount of cash, forcing you to be mindful of your spending. The purpose of this exercise is not to LARP as a poor person. It is a psychological tool. It is designed to do two things. First, it dramatically reduces your fear of the future. When you have voluntarily experienced a stripped-down version of the worst-case scenario and realized that you survived, that it wasn't as terrible as your anxious mind imagined, the fear loses its power over you. Second, it radically increases your gratitude for what you already have. When you return to your normal life after a day of intentional restriction, a simple hot meal becomes a feast. A comfortable bed feels like the pinnacle of luxury. The things you once took for granted now shine with a newfound brilliance. You have recalibrated your baseline for pleasure and contentment. Another titan of Stoic thought was the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. As the most powerful man in the known world, Marcus could have indulged his every whim. Yet the private journal he left behind, which we now know as the Meditations, is a testament to a life of rigorous self-discipline and mental training. He constantly reminded himself to wake up early, to do his duty, to choose the harder path. He wrote things like, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm?" He saw his comfortable bed not as a source of pleasure, but as a temptation, a siren call to softness that he had to consciously resist every single day. He understood that character is not built in the grand moments of crisis, but in the small daily choices we make when no one is watching. The choice to get out of bed instead of hitting snooze. The choice to do the difficult task first. The choice to respond to a rude person with patience instead of anger. How can we apply the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius today? It starts with your morning. The first battle of the day is won or lost in the first few minutes after you wake up. Do you immediately reach for your phone, flooding your brain with dopamine and other people's agendas before you have even had a chance to connect with your own? Or do you resist that urge? Do you take a few moments to sit in silence, to stretch, to hydrate, or to simply look out the window? An incredibly powerful way to start your day with a voluntary hardship is to make your bed. It is a small, simple act of discipline. It is a victory you can achieve within the first 3 minutes of being awake. It sets a tone of order and intention for the rest of your day. Admiral William H. McRaven, a retired U.S. Navy SEAL, gave a famous commencement speech where he said, "If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed." He explained that this small act of discipline reinforces the fact that the little things in life matter, and it gives you a small sense of pride, encouraging you to do another task and another. By the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Now let's travel east, to the islands of Japan, and examine the code of the samurai, the legendary warrior class of feudal Japan. Their entire philosophy, known as Bushido or the Way of the Warrior, was built upon a foundation of self-discipline, courage, and a deep familiarity with hardship. A samurai was expected to live a frugal, almost ascetic life, scorning luxury and material possessions. They believed that a focus on comfort would make them soft and dull their martial edge. They trained relentlessly, pushing their bodies and minds to their absolute limits. They practiced in the freezing cold of winter and the blistering heat of summer. They engaged in grueling martial arts training for hours on end, day after day. They studied poetry, calligraphy, and philosophy with the same intensity they brought to their sword practice. They were the ultimate embodiment of the warrior scholar. A central concept in Bushido was the idea of living with a constant awareness of death. Samurai were taught to meditate on their own mortality every single day. This might sound morbid to our modern ears, but for the samurai, it was a source of incredible power and vitality. By confronting the ultimate hardship, the end of their own existence, they were liberated from the fear of it. This practice made them fearless in battle, but more importantly, it infused their lives with a sense of urgency and meaning. When you know that today could be your last day, you are less likely to waste it on trivial matters. You are more likely to treat people with respect, to act with integrity, and to appreciate the simple beauty of the world around you. This is a form of mental hardship we can all practice. Take a few moments each day to contemplate the impermanence of life. This is not to make you sad, but to make you alive. It is a reminder to not sweat the small stuff. It is a powerful antidote to procrastination. It is a call to action to live fully, to love deeply, and to not leave important words unsaid. It strips away the non-essential and focuses your mind on what truly matters. Another key practice for the samurai was a concept known as misogi, which involves purification through water. This often took the form of standing under a freezing cold waterfall for an extended period, chanting and meditating. The intense physical shock of the cold water was meant to jolt the spirit, to wash away impurities, and to forge an unbreakable connection between mind and body. This is the ancient root of the modern practice of cold plunges and cold showers. When you willingly subject your body to the intense discomfort of cold water, you are training your nervous system to handle stress. Your initial instinct is to panic, to gasp for air, to escape. But with practice, you learn to control your breath, to relax into the discomfort, and to calm your mind in the face of a powerful physical stressor. This skill is directly transferable to other areas of your life. When you get stuck in traffic, or when your boss yells at you, or when you receive bad news, you will have the practiced ability to stay calm, to control your breathing, and to think clearly instead of reacting impulsively. You are not just building a tolerance to cold, you are building a tolerance to life's chaos. A 2016 study in the Netherlands found that people who took a daily cold shower for 30 days called in sick for work 29% less than their colleagues who took warm showers. The researchers believe this could be due to the cold water's positive effect on the immune system, but it also points to the increased resilience and grit that comes from this simple daily practice. Let's look at another domain of ancient wisdom: the spiritual and religious traditions of the world. Virtually every major religion, from Christianity and Islam to Buddhism and Hinduism, incorporates practices of voluntary hardship as a means of spiritual development. The most common of these is fasting. For thousands of years, people have willingly abstained from food for set periods of time, not just for physical health, but for mental and spiritual clarity. Fasting is a powerful way to cultivate self-discipline. It teaches you to be the master of your own physical urges rather than their slave. When you feel the pangs of hunger and consciously choose not to eat, you are exercising your willpower muscle. You are proving to yourself that your conscious mind is in charge, not your primal instincts. This practice has a profound clarifying effect on the mind. When your body is not constantly expending energy on digestion, your mental focus can become incredibly sharp. Many people who practice regular fasting report heightened states of awareness and a deeper connection to their spiritual side. In our modern world, we are rarely ever truly hungry. We live in a state of constant satiation. Fasting, even for a short period, can reconnect us with a fundamental human experience. It also has the added benefit of resetting our appreciation for food. After a fast, even the simplest meal tastes unbelievably delicious. It is a powerful antidote to the mindless overconsumption that is so common in our society. You can start simply. Try skipping a single meal, or try intermittent fasting, where you only eat within a specific window of time each day, for example, between noon and 8 p.m. This is a highly accessible form of voluntary hardship with a host of well-documented health benefits, including improved insulin sensitivity and cellular repair, a process known as autophagy. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2019 reviewed a large body of research on intermittent fasting and concluded that it can have broad-spectrum benefits for many health conditions. But beyond the physical benefits, it is a training ground for the spirit. It is a reminder that you are more than just your appetites. Another near-universal practice in spiritual traditions is solitude. For centuries, mystics, monks, and prophets have sought out the wilderness, the desert, or the quiet of a monastery to be alone with their thoughts and to connect with a higher power. In our hyper-connected world, true solitude is a radical act. We are so afraid of being alone with ourselves that we fill every spare moment with digital noise. But it is in the silence that we can finally hear our own inner voice. It is in solitude that we can process our emotions, untangle our thoughts, and gain clarity on our life's direction. Intentionally scheduling time to be alone, without your phone or any other distractions, is a form of voluntary emotional hardship. It can be uncomfortable at first. Your mind, accustomed to constant stimulation, might feel restless and anxious. But if you stick with it, You will break through that initial discomfort and discover a deep well of peace and creativity within you. Start small. Go for a 30-minute walk without any headphones. Sit in a park for 15 minutes and just observe the world around you. Spend an evening at home with all your screens turned off. You are not just disconnecting from the world, you are reconnecting with yourself. The common thread that unites the Stoic, the Samurai, and the spiritual seeker is this. They understood that the quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens to you. And they knew that the only way to develop the strength to respond with wisdom, courage, and grace is through practice. You cannot wait for a crisis to hit to decide you want to be resilient. You must train for it in times of peace. You must build your strength in the small, daily choices you make. By studying and applying this ancient wisdom, you are taking part in a grand tradition of human self-improvement. You are walking a path that has been trod by emperors, warriors, and saints. You are learning that the obstacle is not in the way, the obstacle is the way. Every time you choose the cold shower, every time you fast for a few hours, every time you sit in silence, every time you choose the stairs, you are honoring this legacy. You are forging your own character, one difficult choice at a time. This is not about being a tough guy or punishing yourself. It is about loving yourself enough to do the hard things that will make you better. It is about reclaiming the strength and resilience that is your birthright. The ancients showed us the path. All we have to do is have the courage to walk it. Chapter 3. The Science of Stepping Out. What happens to your brain and body? In our last chapter, we walked with the ancients. We listened to the wisdom of Stoic emperors, disciplined samurai warriors, and spiritual seekers from across the ages. We learned that the pursuit of a stronger, more meaningful life through voluntary hardship is not a new idea, but a timeless one. For centuries, these practices were based on observation, on tradition, and on the undeniable results they produced in the character of those who dared to embrace them. But today, we are in a uniquely privileged position. We have the tools to look inside the human body and brain, to measure and to map the incredible changes that occur when we choose to step outside our comfort zone. Modern science is now catching up to ancient wisdom, providing a powerful validation for what the great thinkers of the past always knew in their bones. This chapter is about the science of that transformation. We are going to pull back the curtain and look at the neurological and physiological machinery that gets set in motion when you choose the path of deliberate challenge. This is not about complex jargon or boring textbook definitions. This is about understanding the remarkable biological inheritance you possess, the incredible capacity for change and adaptation that is wired into your very being. Understanding this science is not just an intellectual exercise. It is a source of profound motivation when you know, on a cellular level, what is happening when you push yourself. Every difficult step, every moment of discomfort becomes an intentional act of self-creation. You are no longer just enduring hardship, you are actively upgrading your own human hardware. Let's begin with the most incredible organ in the known universe, your brain. For a long time, the prevailing belief in science was that the adult brain was a fixed entity. It was thought that after a certain point in early adulthood, the brain structure was more or less set in stone. You had the brain you were going to have for the rest of your life. We now know that this is completely, utterly false. The single most important discovery in neuroscience in the last half-century is the concept of neuroplasticity. The neuro part refers to neurons, the nerve cells that are the building blocks of your brain and nervous system. The plasticity part means that these cells and their connections are malleable, changeable, and can be continuously reorganized. Think of your brain not as a finished sculpture, but as a living, dynamic lump of clay that is constantly being reshaped by your thoughts, your actions, and your experiences. Every single thing you do, from learning a new word to resisting the urge to eat a cookie, physically alters the structure of your brain. This is not a metaphor. It is a biological reality. Imagine a vast, grassy field. The first time you walk from one side to the other, you have to push your way through the tall grass. It is difficult and requires effort. But if you walk that same path every day, you will start to tread down the grass. A faint trail will appear. As you continue to walk it, the trail becomes a well-defined path. The more the path is used, the wider, clearer, and more efficient it becomes. This is exactly how your brain works. When you learn a new skill, whether it is playing the guitar or speaking a new language, you are forcing your brain to send an electrical signal down a new neural pathway. The first time, that signal has to fight its way through, just like you fighting your way through the tall grass. It is slow, awkward, and requires immense concentration. But each time you practice, you strengthen that connection. A fatty substance called myelin begins to wrap around the axon of the neuron, acting like insulation on a wire. This process, called myelination, makes the signal travel faster and more efficiently. The more you practice, the thicker the myelin sheath becomes, and the more effortless the action becomes. The awkward fumbling with guitar chords eventually becomes a fluid melody. The halting, broken sentences in a new language eventually become a confident conversation. You have physically built a new superhighway in your brain. So, how does this relate to voluntary hardship? Your comfortable, everyday routines are your brain's existing superhighways. Driving your usual route to work, scrolling through social media, watching your favorite television show, these are all well-worn neural pathways. They require almost no conscious thought or effort. They are easy, they are comfortable, but they do not build a new brain. Voluntary hardship, by its very definition, is the act of intentionally forging new paths. It is choosing to walk through the tall grass. When you decide to learn a complex new skill, you are directly engaging the machinery of neuroplasticity. When you force yourself to solve a difficult problem at work, instead of immediately asking for help, you are strengthening the problem-solving circuits in your prefrontal cortex. When you decide to memorize a poem or a long passage from a book, you are giving your memory centers a rigorous workout. This is why the pursuit of comfort is so dangerous. A life lived entirely on the superhighways of habit and ease is a life of neurological stagnation. It is the equivalent of never exercising your muscles. Without challenge, without novel experiences that force it to adapt, the brain's capacity for change diminishes. Here is your first actionable takeaway from this concept. You must become an active agent of your own brain's rewiring. Look at the results of the comfort audit you performed in the first chapter. Where in your life are you living on autopilot? Pick one area. If you spend your evenings passively consuming entertainment, your actionable step is to dedicate just 30 minutes each evening to an activity that requires active learning. This could be using a language learning app, watching a tutorial on how to play an instrument, or working your way through a challenging non-fiction book. The key is that the activity must be what scientists call a desirable difficulty. It needs to be hard enough that it requires your full concentration, but not so hard that you become completely frustrated and give up. It is in that sweet spot of struggle, just beyond the edge of your current abilities, that your brain grows the most. You will feel resistance. Your mind will crave the easy path, the comfortable couch. But when you feel that resistance, I want you to visualize what is actually happening. See the new connections being forged in your mind. See the myelin wrapping around your neurons. You are not just struggling, you are building a better brain. You are a neurosculptor, and the chisel you use is focused effort. Now let's zoom out from the brain and look at the body's master control system for dealing with challenges. The stress response. The word stress has become a villain in our modern vocabulary. We talk about eliminating stress, reducing stress, avoiding stress at all costs. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how we are built. Stress, in the right dose, is not only good for you, it is absolutely essential for growth, strength, and resilience. The problem is not stress itself, but the type of stress we are constantly marinating in. Our ancient ancestors dealt with acute stresses. These were intense, short-lived periods of challenge. A lion would appear, and their stress response system, often called the fight or flight response, would flood their body with hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Their heart would race, their breathing would quicken, their pupils would dilate, and sugar would be dumped into their bloodstream for immediate energy. This system was designed to save their lives. After they either fought the lion or ran away from it, the stressor was gone, and their body would return to a state of rest and recovery. Our modern lives, however, are characterized by chronic stress. There is no lion, but there is the never-ending stream of emails, the 24-hour news cycle filled with disasters, the constant pinging of social media notifications, the financial worries, and the traffic jams. These are not life-threatening situations, but our nervous system often cannot tell the difference. It responds to this low-grade, persistent psychological stress by trickling out cortisol all day long. This chronic activation of the stress response is what leads to burnout, anxiety, inflammation, and a host of other health problems. It is like having the smoke alarm in your house blaring all day, every day, even when there is no fire. Eventually, you become exhausted and desensitized. This is where voluntary hardship becomes one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. By intentionally introducing acute stresses into your life in a controlled way, you are retraining your stress response system. You are teaching it the difference between a real, immediate challenge and the low-grade hum of modern anxiety. This concept is known in biology as hormesis. Hormesis is the principle that a low dose of a stressor that would be harmful in a high dose actually produces a beneficial adaptive response in the body. A small dose of a poison can act as a medicine. Think about exercise. When you lift a heavy weight or go for a hard run, you are causing microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. This is a form of physical stress. Your body responds to this stress not just by repairing the damage, but by overcompensating, by rebuilding the muscles stronger than they were before. This is hormesis in action. That which does not kill you literally makes you stronger. Cold exposure, which we will explore in detail in the next chapter, is another perfect example of hormesis. Plunging your body into cold water is a massive shock to your system. It is a powerful, acute stressor. Your body immediately goes into fight or flight mode. But because you are in a controlled environment and you know you are safe, you can learn to override that initial panic response. You learn to control your breathing and calm your mind in the face of intense physical stress. What happens next is amazing. Your body adapts. It becomes more efficient at regulating its temperature. Your nervous system becomes less reactive. You are effectively giving your stress response system a workout, a simulation of a real-life threat. The result is that when you face psychological stresses in your daily life, like an angry client or a looming deadline, your nervous system is better equipped to handle it. You have a greater top-down control over your own response. You have built what psychologists call stress inoculation. You have vaccinated yourself against the anxieties of modern life by exposing yourself to a stronger, more concentrated dose of stress on your own terms. The actionable step here is to begin thinking of yourself as a stress trainer. Your job is to schedule short, intense workouts for your nervous system. This does not have to be an ice bath. It could be a high-intensity interval training session for just 10 minutes. It could be practicing public speaking, a common and powerful psychological stressor. It could be taking on a challenging project at work that forces you to stretch your abilities. The key ingredients are that the stressor should be acute, meaning it has a clear beginning and end, and it should be followed by a period of genuine rest and recovery. This cycle of stress and recovery is the fundamental rhythm of all growth. You do not get stronger in the gym while you are lifting the weights. You get stronger in the hours and days afterward when your body is repairing and rebuilding. In the same way, you build your resilience not just during the act of hardship, but in the deliberate calm that follows. Do not just seek out challenges, actively schedule your recovery. After a week of hard work, take a day to truly unplug. After an intense workout, get a good night's sleep. You are not a machine. You are a biological organism that grows through a beautiful dance between tension and release. Now let's get into the chemistry of how this all feels. Why does overcoming a challenge feel so good? The answer lies in a powerful little molecule in your brain called dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure molecule, but that is not quite accurate. It is more accurately described as the motivation molecule. Dopamine is released in anticipation of a reward, and it is what drives you to seek out that reward. It is the chemical that gets you off the couch to go get a snack, to check your phone for a new message, or to work towards a long-term goal. It is fundamental to our survival as it drives us to seek food, water, and social connection. The problem with our modern, comfortable world is that it has become a dopamine minefield. We are surrounded by what I call cheap dopamine. These are activities that provide a huge dopamine hit for very little effort. A sugary donut, a viral video, a like on your social media post, a win in a video game. These all trigger a significant release of dopamine. Your brain loves this. It is getting a reward signal without having to do any real work. But there is a catch. Your brain maintains a state of balance, or homeostasis. When it is flooded with cheap, unearned dopamine, it responds by down-regulating your dopamine receptors. This means you need more of the stimulus next time to get the same feeling. This is the biological basis of addiction and tolerance. More importantly, it raises your baseline level of contentment. Normal, everyday activities start to feel boring and unsatisfying. You lose your drive, your motivation to pursue difficult long-term goals. Because why would you work hard for a reward in the future when you can get a bigger, faster reward right now by just picking up your phone? Voluntary hardship is the antidote to this dopamine crisis. When you set a difficult goal and work towards it, you are engaging your dopamine system in the way it was designed to be used. The dopamine released is not a sudden, overwhelming spike. It is a sustained, controlled release that keeps you focused and motivated on the path. The real magic happens when you finally achieve the goal. The feeling of accomplishment you get from finishing a marathon, completing a difficult project, or finally mastering that guitar chord is accompanied by a profound and satisfying release of dopamine. But unlike the cheap dopamine from a donut, this dopamine feels earned. It feels meaningful. And most importantly, it reinforces the pathway of effort itself. Your brain learns a powerful lesson. Effort is rewarding. The struggle is worthwhile. This process rebuilds your motivation from the ground up. It lowers your baseline, allowing you to find joy and satisfaction in smaller, simpler things again. You are rewiring your brain to love the process of striving, not just the fleeting pleasure of consuming. Here is a powerful, actionable step to reclaim your dopamine system. The dopamine fast. This does not mean you eliminate all dopamine, which is impossible and undesirable. It means you intentionally abstain from your sources of cheap, high dopamine activities for a set period of time, perhaps one full day a week. On your dopamine fast day, you would refrain from using the internet for entertainment. No social media, no video games, no junk food, no pornography, no mindless consumption of content. Instead, you would fill your day with activities that are naturally lower in dopamine stimulation, things like reading a physical book, going for a long walk in nature, meditating, journaling, or having a face-to-face conversation. It will feel incredibly boring and difficult at first. Your brain will scream for its usual fix. This is withdrawal. But if you push through it, something amazing happens. Your dopamine receptors begin to reset. By the end of the day, the simple act of listening to music or eating a healthy meal will feel more pleasurable than it has in years. You are resensitizing yourself to the natural joys of life. You are teaching your brain that you are in control of your motivation, not the other way around. Finally, let's look at the broader physiological adaptations that occur when we embrace physical hardship. Your body is the ultimate adaptive machine, constantly remodeling itself to meet the demands of its environment. When you live a sedentary, comfortable life, your body adapts to that. Your muscles weaken, your bone density decreases, and your cardiovascular system becomes less efficient. Your body is essentially saying, "It seems we don't need to be strong or robust, so I'll conserve energy by letting these systems decline." But when you introduce physical challenges, you send a powerful signal to every cell in your body. That signal says, we need to be strong. We need to be resilient. We need to be ready for anything. One of the most profound adaptations occurs in the tiny power plants inside your cells called mitochondria. Mitochondria are responsible for taking the food you eat and the air you breathe and turning it into adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, the primary energy currency of your body. The number and efficiency of your mitochondria are a direct indicator of your overall health and vitality. People with high levels of energy and a low risk of metabolic diseases have dense, healthy mitochondria. A sedentary lifestyle causes your mitochondria to become weak and dysfunctional. But when you engage in challenging physical activity, you trigger a process called mitochondrial biogenesis. Your body literally starts building new, more powerful mitochondria. You are upgrading your body's engine at the cellular level. This is why regular exercise does not just give you bigger muscles, it gives you more energy in every aspect of your life. This adaptive response extends to your immune system as well. While chronic stress is known to suppress the immune system, acute hormetic stressors can actually enhance it. When you engage in a brief, intense burst of activity, like a hard workout or a cold plunge, your body releases a surge of immune cells into your bloodstream. It is like a practice drill for your internal army. This process is thought to improve immune surveillance, making your body better at detecting and eliminating potential threats, from viruses to cancer cells. The Dutch study we touched on before, where participants who took daily cold showers had a nearly 30% reduction in sick days, is a powerful real-world example of this principle in action. You are not just toughening your mind, you are building a more robust and responsive immune defense system. The key to unlocking these incredible physiological adaptations is the principle of progressive overload. This is the cornerstone of all physical training. It simply means that in order to keep adapting, you must continually increase the level of challenge. If you lift the same 5-pound weight every day, you will quickly plateau. Your body will have adapted to that specific stress, and it will see no reason to get any stronger. To continue to grow, you need to add a little more weight or do a few more repetitions. The same is true for any form of voluntary hardship. Your first cold shower will be a huge shock. But after a month of doing it every day, it will start to feel less challenging. That is your signal to progress. Maybe you make the water a little colder, or you stay in for a little longer. The goal is to always be gently pushing the boundaries of your current capacity. This is a journey without a final destination. There is no point at which you become resilient enough. It is a lifelong practice of seeking out appropriate challenges, adapting to them, and then seeking the next one. So as you move forward from this chapter, I want you to carry this scientific understanding with you as a shield and a sword. When your comfort-seeking mind whispers that the challenge is too great, that you should take the easy way out, Arm yourself with this knowledge. Remind yourself that the struggle is not just a pointless ordeal, it is a biological signal for growth. The discomfort you feel is the feeling of new neural pathways being paved. It is the feeling of your stress response system being finely tuned. It is the feeling of your dopamine receptors resetting to their natural state. It is the feeling of your cells building new power plants to fuel a more vibrant life. You are not breaking down. You are breaking through. Science has shown us the map. The ancient wisdom gave us the compass. Now all that is left is for you to take the first, deliberate step into the wild and wonderful territory just outside your comfort zone. Chapter 4. The Cold Plunge, Embracing Physical Hardship. We have explored the crisis of comfort that defines our modern world. We have unearthed the ancient wisdom that saw hardship not as a curse, but as a crucible for character. And we have delved into the incredible science that reveals how challenge physically rewires our brains and rebuilds our bodies. We have laid the foundation. We have established the why. Now, it is time to get intensely practical. It is time to move from theory to action. This chapter marks our first deep dive into a specific, powerful, and profoundly transformative practice of voluntary hardship, cold exposure. We are starting here for a very specific reason. There is perhaps no practice that so perfectly encapsulates the principles we have been discussing. It is simple, accessible to almost everyone, and the feedback it provides is immediate, undeniable, and visceral. The cold is an honest teacher. It does not care about your excuses, your social status, or your good intentions. It demands your full presence and rewards your courage with a cascade of physiological benefits and a profound sense of mental fortitude. I want to acknowledge something right at the outset. For many of you listening, the very idea of intentionally exposing yourself to cold water probably triggers a feeling of deep resistance. Your mind is likely already generating a list of reasons why this is a terrible idea. It is too uncomfortable. It is too shocking. What is the point? This reaction is completely normal. It is your survival instinct, honed over millions of years, screaming at you to seek warmth and comfort and to avoid this unnecessary stress. Your entire being is programmed to resist this. And that is precisely why it is such a powerful tool for growth. The battle for inner strength is not won against external enemies. It is won against this internal voice of resistance, this inner critic that constantly begs for the easy path. By learning to face the cold, you are learning to face yourself. You are learning to hear that voice of fear and hesitation, to acknowledge it, and then to calmly and deliberately do the hard thing anyway. This is the fundamental skill of a resilient life, and the cold water is one of the greatest training grounds on earth to develop it. Let me paint a picture for you, a story that is almost universal for anyone who begins this practice. Imagine it is morning. You step into your shower, and you perform your usual routine in the comforting warmth of the hot water. But today is different. Today, you have made a commitment. As you near the end of your shower, you take a deep breath. You can feel your heart rate start to climb in anticipation. Your hand reaches for the temperature knob. The voice in your head is screaming, "Don't do it, it's going to be horrible. What are you trying to prove? Just skip it today, you can start tomorrow." This is the moment of truth. This is what we will later call the flinch. It is the universal moment of hesitation before a difficult act. Everything in you wants to retreat back to the warmth, back to comfort. But you take another deep breath and you turn the knob. The first blast of cold water hits your chest and it takes your breath away. It is a pure, electric shock to the system. Your body involuntarily gasps for air. Your mind goes into a state of pure panic. Get out now. This is terrible. This is a mistake. Every muscle in your body tenses up. Your only thought is escape. This initial 30 seconds feels like an eternity of suffering, but then something shifts. You remember the instructions you have been given. You focus on one thing and one thing only, your breath. You force yourself to take a long, slow exhale, and another. You consciously tell your muscles to relax, to soften into the sensation instead of fighting it. You stop labeling the sensation as bad or painful, and instead, you just observe it as intense. You feel the cold water on your skin. You feel your heart pounding in your chest. But you are no longer panicking. You are bearing witness to the storm within you, and you are holding your ground. After another 30 seconds, you realize you are still alive. You have not died. The world has not ended. The panic begins to subside, replaced by a strange sense of calm alertness. You have tamed the initial shock. You have proven to your primal brain that this is not a life-threatening situation. You finish your allotted time, turn off the water, and step out of the shower. And in that moment, a feeling washes over you that is difficult to describe. It is a potent cocktail of euphoria, pride, and profound vitality. Your skin is tingling. Your mind is crystal clear, sharper than it has been all morning. You feel utterly and completely alive. And most importantly, you feel a deep sense of self-respect. You met the dragon of your own resistance at the gate, and you did not back down. You won the first and most important battle of the day, the battle against your own weakness. This experience, in a nutshell, is the power of the practice. But what is actually happening inside your body and brain to create such a dramatic shift? Let's break down the incredible science of cold exposure. The first and most immediate effect is on your nervous system. That initial shock triggers a massive activation of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response we discussed in the last chapter. This causes a huge release of a neurotransmitter and hormone called norepinephrine. In fact, studies have shown that whole-body cold water immersion at around 57 degrees Fahrenheit or 14 degrees Celsius for just a few minutes can increase norepinephrine levels by 530%. This is not a small change. It is a complete reset for your brain. Norepinephrine is intimately involved in focus, vigilance, attention, and mood. The flood of norepinephrine is why you feel so incredibly alert and clear-headed after a cold shower. It is a natural and powerful antidepressant and a potent antidote to brain fog. If you struggle with focus or find yourself feeling sluggish and unmotivated, a daily dose of cold can be more effective than any cup of coffee. But the magic does not stop there. While the sympathetic nervous system is getting a jolt, you are also training another, equally important part of your autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest system. The key player here is the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body, wandering from your brain down through your neck and into your chest and abdomen, connecting to your heart, lungs, and digestive tract. It is the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system, and its job is to calm you down. The tone or activity of your vagus nerve is a key indicator of your emotional and physiological resilience. People with a high vagal tone are better at regulating their emotions, they have a lower heart rate, and they can switch from a state of stress to a state of calm much more quickly. So how do you train your vagus nerve? One of the most effective ways is through cold exposure. The initial shock activates the fight or flight response, but by consciously slowing down your breathing and relaxing into the cold, you are forcing your vagus nerve to engage and put the brakes on that stress response. You are literally training your body at a deep neurological level to find calm in the midst of chaos. This is why people who practice cold exposure regularly report feeling less anxious and more level-headed in their daily lives. They have strengthened their internal braking system. Let's talk about something that everyone wants more of: energy. As we discussed, the mitochondria are the power plants of your cells. Cold exposure is one of the most powerful signals you can send to your body to build more of them. But it also does something else that is truly remarkable. It activates a special type of fat in your body called brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. Unlike regular white fat, which is primarily for storing energy, brown fat is for burning energy to create heat. It is packed with mitochondria, which is what gives it its brown color. Babies are born with a lot of brown fat to keep them warm, but it was long thought that adults had very little. We now know this is not true. We all have stores of this metabolically active fat, particularly around our neck, shoulders, and spine. And one of the best ways to activate this brown fat, and even create more of it, is through cold exposure. When you are cold, your body activates this brown fat to act like a biological furnace, burning calories to generate heat and keep your core temperature stable. This has incredible implications for metabolic health. By regularly activating your brown fat, you are effectively turning up your body's thermostat, leading to increased calorie expenditure and improved insulin sensitivity. You are turning your body into a more efficient fat-burning machine, all by taking a cold shower. Another profound benefit of cold exposure is its effect on inflammation. Inflammation is a natural and essential part of your body's healing process. When you get a cut, the area becomes red, swollen, and warm. That is your immune system rushing to the site to fight off pathogens and repair the tissue. This is acute inflammation, and it is a good thing. However, just like with stress, the problem in our modern world is chronic, low-grade inflammation. This type of inflammation is linked to virtually every major chronic disease, from heart disease and diabetes to autoimmune disorders and depression. Cold exposure is one of the most potent anti-inflammatory tools available to us. It is why athletes take ice baths after a hard game. The cold constricts the blood vessels, which helps to flush out metabolic waste and reduce swelling. But it also works on a deeper, systemic level. The release of norepinephrine from cold exposure has been shown to powerfully suppress key inflammatory molecules in the body. By taking a daily cold shower, you are helping to put out the fires of chronic inflammation, protecting your long-term health and reducing everyday aches and pains. So, with all these incredible benefits, how do you actually start? The key, as with all voluntary hardship, is progressive overload. You do not need to fill your bathtub with ice and jump in for 10 minutes on your first day. That is a recipe for quitting. We are going to build this habit intelligently and sustainably. Here is your roadmap, starting from absolute zero. Level 1 is the 30-second challenge. For the first week, your only goal is to end your regular warm shower with just 30 seconds of cold water. That is it. Do not start with the cold, get clean and comfortable in the warm water first. Then, at the very end, take a deep breath and turn the knob all the way to cold. The key during these 30 seconds is to focus on your breathing. Do not hold your breath. Do not hyperventilate. Your goal is to achieve long, slow exhales. This will activate your vagus nerve and help you tolerate the shock. Count the seconds in your head if you need to. After 30 seconds, you are done. Turn off the water and get out. Congratulate yourself. You have completed the hardest part, which is simply starting. Do this every day for a week. Level 2 is extending the duration. In the second week, your goal is to extend that cold finish to 1 full minute. You will notice that after about 30 or 40 seconds, the initial shock begins to wear off. Your body starts to adapt. This is a crucial milestone. You are learning that the discomfort is temporary. In the third week, you will extend it to 2 minutes. In the fourth week, you will aim for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a fantastic daily goal for most people to reap the majority of the benefits we have discussed. The water does not need to be ice cold for this to work. As cold as your tap will go is perfectly effective. Consistency is far more important than intensity. A 3-minute cold shower every single day is infinitely more valuable than a 10-minute ice bath once a month. Level 3 is the full cold shower. Once you are comfortable with a 3-minute cold finish, you can challenge yourself to start the shower cold and keep it cold for the entire duration. This requires a different level of mental commitment. There is no warm water to ease you in. You are stepping directly into the challenge. This is a powerful way to start your day, as it forces you to do the hardest thing first, creating a wave of momentum that can carry you through the rest of your daily tasks. Level 4 is the cold plunge or ice bath. This is the advanced practice. It involves immersing your body up to your neck in water that is between 39 and 59 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 4 to 15 degrees Celsius. This provides a much more powerful and systemic stimulus than a shower. You can achieve this by filling your bathtub with cold water and adding a few bags of ice. For this level, safety is paramount. Never do a cold plunge alone, especially when you are first starting. Have someone with you. Start with a very short duration, just 1 to 2 minutes. Focus intensely on your breathing to stay calm. Never push yourself to the point of uncontrollable shivering. Listen to your body. As you adapt, you can gradually increase the duration, up to about 10 or 15 minutes, but there is rarely a need to go longer than that. This is a practice to be used perhaps once or twice a week to supplement your daily cold showers. Now let's move beyond the physical benefits and talk about what I believe is the most important aspect of this practice: the mental and psychological fortitude it builds. Every single time you step into the cold water, you are training your mind. You are building what the writer and endurance athlete David Goggins calls a calloused mind. Just as your hands develop calluses to protect them from the friction of hard work, your mind develops calluses to protect it from the friction of life's challenges. You are systematically increasing your tolerance for discomfort. The things that used to stress you out or cause you to procrastinate will start to seem insignificant in comparison to the challenge you willingly faced first thing in the morning. That difficult conversation you need to have with your boss. It does not seem so scary after you have stood in freezing water for 3 minutes. That workout you were thinking of skipping. It seems easy now. You are recalibrating your entire perception of what is difficult. The cold also forces you into a state of what is sometimes called one-pointed mind. The physical sensation is so intense that it is impossible to be anywhere but in the present moment. You cannot ruminate about your past mistakes or worry about your future problems when your body is screaming at you about the immediate reality of the cold. It is an enforced mindfulness meditation. It yanks you out of the useless chatter of your mind and anchors you firmly in the now. This ability to be present is a superpower in our distracted world, and the cold is an incredible teacher of this skill. Finally, and most powerfully, the cold builds an evidence-based relationship with your own potential. Every time you overcome the resistance and do the hard thing, you are making a deposit into your self-respect bank account. You are gathering evidence that you are the type of person who does not back down from a challenge. You are proving to yourself, not with words or affirmations, but with undeniable action, that you are in control of your choices. This belief is not something you can get from a book or a motivational speech. It must be earned through your own repeated efforts. This victory over the self, won in the solitude of your own bathroom every morning, is the foundation upon which a truly resilient life is built. It is a daily reminder that you have the power to choose your response to any circumstance. You have the ability to face discomfort and to not just endure it, but to grow from it. So I challenge you. Starting tomorrow, I challenge you to take the first step. Just 30 seconds. Do not overthink it. Do not negotiate with the voice of weakness in your head. Simply commit to it tonight, and when the moment comes tomorrow morning, act. See it not as a punishment, but as an opportunity. See it as a way to honor your body's incredible capacity for adaptation. See it as a training session for your mind, preparing you for whatever challenges the day may hold. This simple act of turning a knob can be the beginning of a profound transformation. It is a gateway practice, a small hinge that can swing a very large door. Embrace the glorious shock of the cold, and in doing so, you will discover a strength and vitality within you that you never knew you possessed. You will learn that the path to inner warmth is, paradoxically, through the voluntary embrace of the cold. Chapter 5. The Unplugged Mind, Conquering Mental and Emotional Discomfort. In the last chapter, we confronted a very tangible and honest form of hardship, the raw, undeniable shock of the cold. The benefits are immediate, the process is simple, if not easy, and the victory is clear. You either turned the knob, or you did not. You either endured the sensation, or you retreated. This type of physical challenge is an essential starting point on the path to inner strength because it teaches you a fundamental lesson. You can tolerate far more discomfort than your mind believes. It builds a foundation of evidence, a bedrock of self-trust that you can stand on as you begin to face challenges that are far more subtle, more insidious, and in many ways more difficult. We now turn our attention inward, away from the sensations of the body and toward the landscape of the mind. This chapter is about confronting the invisible hardships, the mental and emotional discomforts that we have become experts at avoiding in our hyper-stimulated modern world. This is the challenge of the unplugged mind. If the comfort crisis has made our bodies soft, it has rendered our minds utterly fragile. We have created a world where it is now possible to go through an entire day, from the moment we wake to the moment we fall into an exhausted sleep, without ever having to spend a single solitary minute alone with our own thoughts. Think about it. The moment you wake, what is the first thing you reach for? For millions of us, it is the smartphone, a glowing portal to a universe of distraction. While you brush your teeth, you might be listening to a podcast. While you eat your breakfast, you are scrolling through a news feed. On your commute, you are inundated with music, radio, or another podcast. At work, you are tethered to a constant stream of emails, messages, and notifications. In the brief moments of transition, waiting for an elevator, standing in line for coffee, your hand reflexively goes to your pocket, and the screen is in front of your face before you have even made a conscious decision. The evening is filled with television shows, movies, video games, and more scrolling. We have become masters of filling every single crack and crevice of our lives with external input. We have declared a war on boredom. We have outlawed silence. And in doing so, we have forgotten how to be with the one person we can never escape: ourselves. This relentless avoidance of our own inner world is not a trivial matter. It is a form of self-abandonment. When we constantly run from silence and solitude, we are sending a powerful message to our subconscious mind. The message is this: what is inside of me is either too boring or too terrifying to face. My own thoughts are not good company. My own feelings are a threat to be managed and suppressed with a constant barrage of noise. This is a tragedy because the greatest treasures of human experience, creativity, self-awareness, deep thinking, and authentic connection are all found on the other side of that discomfort. They are hidden in the very silence we have been taught to fear. This chapter is your guide to reclaiming that silence. It is about learning to voluntarily unplug from the world so that you can finally plug back into yourself. This is a form of hardship that requires no special equipment, no physical prowess, only a quiet courage to face the inner wilderness you have been avoiding for far too long. Let's first understand the nature of the enemy. The digital tools we use every day are not neutral. They have been designed by some of the smartest people in the world with the specific goal of capturing and holding your attention for as long as possible. Your attention is the currency of the modern economy. Companies like Facebook, Google, and TikTok are not selling you a product. They are selling your attention to advertisers. And they have become terrifyingly good at it. They have harnessed the power of the dopamine system we discussed in a previous chapter to create what are known as variable reward schedules. In the 1950s, the psychologist B.F. Skinner conducted experiments where he put pigeons in a box with a lever. If the pigeon pressed the lever and received a food pellet every single time, it would only press the lever when it was hungry. But if the reward was randomized, if the food pellet came out unpredictably, sometimes after one press, sometimes after 20, the pigeons would become obsessive. They would press the lever compulsively, over and over again. This is the exact mechanism that drives a slot machine in Las Vegas. And it is the exact mechanism that is built into the social media feed on your phone. Every time you pull down to refresh your feed, you are pulling the lever on a digital slot machine. You do not know what you are going to get. It might be a boring update from a distant relative, or it might be a picture that gets 100 likes, or a funny video that gives you a jolt of pleasure. It is this variability, this unpredictability, that makes it so addictive. You are not weak or undisciplined for finding it hard to put your phone down. You are a human being with a brain that evolved over millions of years to seek out novelty and reward, and you are up against a supercomputer in your pocket that has been perfectly engineered to exploit that ancient wiring. This is not a fair fight, and the result is a state of continuous partial attention. We are physically present in one place, but our mind is fractured, splintered into a dozen different digital streams. We are having a conversation with a loved one, but we are also thinking about the email we just saw pop up on our screen. We are trying to read a book, but every few minutes our brain craves the quick hit of a new notification. This state of constant distraction has devastating consequences. It erodes our ability to perform deep work, the kind of focused, concentrated effort required to solve hard problems and create things of real value. It makes us more anxious, as our nervous system is kept in a perpetual state of low-grade alert, always waiting for the next ping, the next buzz. And perhaps most sadly, it robs our experiences of their richness and depth. A beautiful sunset is not fully experienced when half of your mind is preoccupied with getting the perfect photo to post online. A child's story is not fully heard when you are simultaneously scrolling through a stranger's vacation pictures. We are becoming spectators in our own lives. The first step in fighting back is to create sacred spaces and sacred times where the digital world is not allowed to enter. This is your first and most important actionable strategy. You must physically separate yourself from the source of the distraction. Willpower alone is not enough. You must change your environment. The most powerful place to start is your bedroom. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for two things: sleep and intimacy. It should not be a digital command center. Tonight, I challenge you to implement the phone foyer rule. An hour before you intend to go to sleep, you will plug your phone in to charge somewhere outside of your bedroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, in the hallway, anywhere but the room where you sleep. You will then need to get an old-fashioned alarm clock to wake you up in the morning. This single change will have a revolutionary impact on your life for several reasons. First, the blue light emitted from screens is known to suppress the production of melatonin, the hormone that tells your body it is time to sleep. By removing screens from your bedroom, you will fall asleep faster and get deeper, more restorative sleep. Second, you will remove the temptation to start your day with a reactive flood of other people's problems and priorities. Instead of waking up and immediately seeing a stressful work email or a piece of bad news, you will wake up to silence. You will have a few precious minutes to yourself, to stretch, to hydrate, to look out the window, to set your own intention for the day before the world rushes in. This is not a small thing. It is how you start your day on your own terms. The second part of this strategy is to institute a digital sunset. Just as our ancestors' days were governed by the rising and setting of the sun, you will create a hard boundary for your digital life. Choose a time in the evening, perhaps an hour before you take your phone to its charging station, and declare that the workday is over. All screens are turned off. No more emails, no more news, no more social media. This will be difficult at first. You will feel a phantom itch to check your device. You will feel a sense of anxiety, a fear of missing out. This is the discomfort we are seeking. Your job is to sit with that feeling, notice it, acknowledge it, and then gently redirect your attention to something analog. Read a physical book, have a real conversation with your partner or family, listen to an album of music without doing anything else, work on a hobby, tidy up your living space, write in a journal. You will be amazed at how much time and mental space opens up when you are not constantly feeding the distraction machine. You will rediscover the simple, quiet pleasures that our digital lives have crowded out. Now let's talk about the monster that all of this distraction is designed to help us avoid: boredom. Boredom has become the ultimate enemy of modern life. We see it as a sign of failure, a void that must be filled immediately. But what if I told you that boredom is not a problem to be solved, but an experience to be embraced? Boredom is the soil in which the seeds of creativity and self-discovery are planted. It is a signal from your brain that it is no longer being passively entertained and is ready to do some work of its own. When you allow yourself to be bored, when you resist the urge to immediately fill the silence with stimulation, your mind begins to wander. It makes new connections. It drifts to long-term goals. It processes unresolved emotions. It comes up with new ideas. This is the state of mind where your best thinking happens. It is called the default mode network, and it is a crucial brain state that we are systematically depriving ourselves of. Your next actionable step is to start practicing boredom. This will feel like a form of mental torture at first, which is how you know it is working. Start with the line test. The next time you are in a line at the grocery store, at the bank, or at the post office, I want you to make a conscious choice to do absolutely nothing. Do not pull out your phone. Just stand there. Look at the people around you. Notice the details of the room. Pay attention to the feeling of your feet on the floor. And most importantly, observe the frantic screaming of your own mind. It will beg for a distraction. It will tell you this is a waste of time. Your job is to just watch that mental drama unfold without giving into it. It is a meditation in the real world. You are training your ability to be present and to tolerate the absence of stimulation. From there, you can graduate to scheduling small pockets of doing nothing into your day. This might be 5 minutes in the morning where you just sit in a chair and look out the window. No phone, no book, no music, just you and your thoughts. It will be uncomfortable. 1,000 things you should be doing will pop into your head. Let them come and go. Think of it as a mental cold plunge. You are willingly stepping into the discomfort of an unstimulated mind and learning to be okay in that space. When you do this regularly, you will find that your anxiety levels decrease. Your ability to focus on a single task improves dramatically, and you will start to have more original and creative ideas. You are giving your mind the space it needs to breathe. This brings us to the next layer of this inner work: conquering emotional discomfort. Just as we use our devices to distract us from boredom, we use them and 1,000 other comforts to numb ourselves to difficult emotions. When we feel a pang of sadness, loneliness, or anxiety, what is our first instinct? For many of us, it is to reach for a distraction. We open the refrigerator and eat something we are not hungry for. We turn on the television and lose ourselves in a fictional world. We scroll endlessly through social media, seeking a small dopamine hit to temporarily soothe the ache inside. We are a society of emotional procrastinators. But here is the problem. When you consistently numb yourself to so-called negative emotions, you also numb yourself to the positive ones. The emotional spectrum is a single dial, not a set of separate switches. If you turn down the volume on your sadness, you are also turning down the volume on your joy, your passion, and your capacity for deep connection. A life spent avoiding emotional discomfort is a shallow, gray, and muted life. The path to emotional strength is not to eliminate difficult feelings, but to learn how to sit with them, to hold them, to listen to them. Emotions are data. They are messengers from a deeper part of yourself, trying to tell you something important about your life. Sadness might be telling you that you have lost something you value. Anger might be telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Anxiety might be telling you that you are facing an uncertain future that you do not feel prepared for. If you are constantly shooting the messenger with distraction, you will never receive the message, and the message will just keep getting louder and more painful until you are finally forced to listen. Your actionable strategy for building this emotional muscle is to start a journaling practice. This is not a diary where you simply record the events of your day. This is an active investigation of your inner world. Every evening, as part of your new screen-free wind-down routine, take out a simple notebook and a pen. I specify a physical notebook because the act of writing by hand is slower and more deliberate than typing, which forces you to connect more deeply with your thoughts. At the top of the page, write down this question. What am I feeling right now? Then answer it as honestly as you can. Do not judge the feeling. Do not try to fix it. Just name it. I feel anxious. I feel frustrated. I feel lonely. Then ask the next question. Where do I feel this in my body? Emotions are not just abstract concepts. They have a physical signature. Anxiety might feel like a tightness in your chest. Anger might feel like heat in your face. Sadness might feel like a hollow ache in your stomach. By locating the physical sensation, you are making the emotion more tangible and less overwhelming. You are observing it instead of being consumed by it. The final and most powerful question to ask is this: what is this feeling trying to tell me? Let yourself write freely. Do not censor yourself. Maybe your frustration is telling you that you are not spending enough time on work that you find meaningful. Maybe your loneliness is telling you that you need to be more proactive in reaching out to your friends. Maybe your anxiety is telling you that you need to prepare more for that upcoming presentation. This practice of naming, locating, and listening to your emotions is transformative. It is the emotional equivalent of lifting weights. Each time you do it, you are building your capacity to tolerate emotional discomfort. You are learning that you can survive your own feelings. You are developing a relationship of trust with your own inner guidance system. You are becoming your own therapist. The final frontier of this unplugged work is to bring this newfound presence and emotional courage into your interactions with other people. This involves the voluntary hardship of engaging in difficult conversations. Just as we avoid our own difficult emotions, we often avoid the conversations that we know will be emotionally charged. We fail to give honest feedback to a colleague because we are afraid of their reaction. We do not tell our partner what we truly need in the relationship because we are afraid of starting a conflict. We do not set firm boundaries with a family member because we do not want to deal with the discomfort of their disappointment. We choose a false, fragile peace over a difficult, authentic connection. And in the long run, this avoidance is toxic. Unspoken resentments build up. Problems that could have been solved early fester and grow. Relationships that could have been deep and authentic become shallow and performative. Having a difficult conversation is a form of voluntary hardship. It requires you to step into a zone of emotional and social discomfort. but it is one of the most loving and respectful things you can do for yourself and for another person. Your actionable step here is to identify one difficult conversation you have been avoiding. Just one. Then, prepare for it using a simple, non-confrontational framework. The framework is observation, feeling, need. First, you state a neutral, factual observation. I noticed that for the last 3 team meetings I have been interrupted while I was speaking. This is not an accusation, it is an observable fact. Second, you state how that observation made you feel using an I statement. When that happens, I feel frustrated and disrespected. You are taking ownership of your own feeling, not blaming the other person for it. Third, you state your need or make a clear request. I need to be able to share my ideas without being cut off. In the future, could you please let me finish my thought before you jump in? This framework is not a magic wand, but it transforms a potentially explosive confrontation into a calm and constructive dialogue. It is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. It will feel awkward and uncomfortable at first, but each time you do it, you are building your courage and strengthening your relationships. Stepping away from the constant noise of the world is not an act of retreat. It is an act of advance. It is a strategic withdrawal that allows you to gather your strength, to sharpen your mind, and to know yourself on a deeper level. The challenges of the unplugged mind, embracing boredom, sitting with difficult emotions, and engaging in honest conversations, are the crucibles in which true character is forged. In the silence, you will find your focus. In your feelings, you will find your wisdom. And in difficult conversations, you will find your connection. This is the hard path. It is the path of less distraction and more depth. It is the path of less noise and more meaning. I urge you to take the first step. Unplug from the world. Plug into your life. Chapter 6. The Flinch. Overcoming procrastination and taking action. We have journeyed from the world of physical discomfort to the inner landscape of the mind. We have learned to face the shock of the cold and the unnerving quiet of an unplugged mind. Now we arrive at the frontier where the inner world meets the outer world. This is the realm of action. This chapter is about the single most critical moment in the journey of personal transformation. It is a moment that occurs dozens, if not hundreds of times every single day. It is a moment that is so brief, so fleeting, that we often do not even notice it. And yet, the outcome of this single moment, repeated over time, is what ultimately determines the entire trajectory of your life. This moment is what I call the flinch. The flinch is that instant of hesitation. It is the split-second pause between an intention and an action. It is the warm bed in the morning and the cold floor waiting for you. The flinch is the moment you think, I should get up. And a voice in your head whispers, just 5 more minutes. It is the empty, blinking cursor on a blank page. The flinch is the moment you know you need to start writing that report, and the voice says, let me just check my email one last time. It is the phone in your hand when you know you should make that difficult call. The flinch is the moment you feel a pang of dread and think, I'll do it later. It is the silence in a meeting when you have a valuable idea, but you are afraid to speak up. It is the space between seeing someone you want to talk to and the decision to walk over and say hello. The flinch is the universal human experience of confronting the discomfort of action and feeling the powerful, primal urge to retreat into the safety of inaction. It is the guardian at the gate of your potential, and your ability to consistently push through it is the single greatest determinant of your success, your happiness, and your self-respect. To conquer the flinch, we must first understand its anatomy. What is happening in your brain during that critical moment of hesitation? It is a battle between 2 different parts of your brain. On one side, you have your prefrontal cortex. This is the sophisticated modern part of your brain, located right behind your forehead. It is the seat of your rational thought, your long-term planning, and your highest aspirations. Your prefrontal cortex is the part of you that decides you want to lose weight, write a book, or start a business. It knows what is best for you in the long run. On the other side, you have a much older, more primitive part of your brain, primarily the limbic system, which includes a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is your brain's threat detection center. Its primary job is to keep you safe and to conserve energy. It is constantly scanning your environment, both internal and external, for any sign of danger or discomfort. To your amygdala, anything that is difficult, uncertain, or unfamiliar is a potential threat. When you think about doing something hard, like having that difficult conversation or going to the gym after a long day, your prefrontal cortex says, "This is a good idea. This aligns with our long-term goals." But your amygdala screams, "Danger. This will be uncomfortable. It will require energy. It might lead to social rejection or failure. Abort. Abort." The flinch is the physical and emotional sensation of that alarm bell going off in your brain. It is your body being flooded with a small dose of stress hormones. It is your brain's emergency brake system. And here is the crucial part. In our modern world, this system, which was designed to save us from lions and tigers, is being triggered by things like making a phone call or starting a new project. Our comfort-oriented society, as we discussed in the first chapter, has made us so allergic to any form of discomfort that our amygdala is now hypersensitive. It treats the discomfort of disciplined action with the same level of alarm as a genuine physical threat. Procrastination is not a character flaw. It is not a sign of laziness. It is an emotional regulation strategy. It is a misguided attempt by your primitive brain to protect you from the negative feelings associated with a difficult task. The problem is that the short-term relief you get from giving in to the flinch is always paid for with the long-term pain of regret, stagnation, and a corroded sense of self. Every time you give in to the flinch, you are casting a vote. You are strengthening the neural pathway of avoidance. You are teaching your brain that when that alarm bell goes off, the correct response is to retreat. The hesitation becomes longer. The voice of resistance becomes louder. The task you are avoiding starts to seem bigger and more intimidating. It looms over you, draining your mental energy and filling you with a low-grade sense of guilt and anxiety. Conversely, every single time you push through the flinch, you are doing the opposite. You are building a new neural pathway. You are teaching your brain that you are in charge, not your primal fear. You are proving to your amygdala that the threat was not a threat at all. In fact, on the other side of that initial discomfort lies a feeling of pride, accomplishment, and increased energy. This is the work. The work is not just doing the task. The work is winning the battle that happens in the 5 seconds before the task begins. So how do we do it? How do we consistently win this battle? We need a set of simple, practical tools that we can deploy in the heat of the moment when the siren song of procrastination is at its loudest. These are not complex theories. These are tactical weapons for the war against your own hesitation. The first and most powerful weapon in your arsenal is what I call the rule of action. It is inspired by the work of the author and speaker Mel Robbins, who popularized the 5-second rule. You have about a 5-second window between the moment your prefrontal cortex says, "I should do this," and the moment your amygdala slams on the brakes. If you hesitate for longer than 5 seconds, you have lost. You will rationalize, you will make excuses, you will convince yourself that now is not the right time. The act of counting backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, is not a gimmick. It is a form of what psychologists call a starting ritual. It does two things. First, it focuses your mind. Instead of thinking about how hard the task is, you are just focused on counting. Second, it interrupts the habit loop of hesitation and replaces it with a new loop of action. When you get to one, you do not think, you move. Let's make this concrete. It is morning. The alarm goes off. Your goal is to get up immediately. The flinch hits you like a ton of bricks. The warmth of the bed, the cold air, the day ahead. Instead of negotiating with that voice, you immediately start the countdown in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On 1, you physically throw your blankets off and swing your feet onto the floor. You do not think about it, you just move. You are in a meeting. You have an idea. The flinch hits you. What if they think it's a stupid idea? What if I sound nervous? You start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On 1, you raise your hand or you open your mouth and start speaking. You see someone you want to connect with at a conference. The flinch hits you. I don't know what to say. They look busy. You start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On 1, you put your feet in motion and start walking towards them. This rule is about using physical action to bypass mental analysis. You are using your body to lead your mind, instead of waiting for your mind to be in the perfect state to lead your body. Action is the antidote to fear. Action is the cure for procrastination. And it starts with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Practice this on the small things, like getting up off the couch to do the dishes, and you will build the strength to use it on the big things that could change your life. The second weapon is a strategy to make the flinch smaller and more manageable. I call it shrink the target. The intensity of the flinch is directly proportional to the perceived size and difficulty of the task you are avoiding. When you think about writing a book, the flinch is enormous. The task seems so massive that it is paralyzing. The same is true for getting in shape or cleaning the entire house. The key is to break the task down into a first step that is so ridiculously small and easy that it feels absurd not to do it. The writer James Clear calls this the 2-minute rule. Your initial goal should never be the big goal itself. Your initial goal should be a gateway habit that takes less than 2 minutes to complete. Read more becomes read 1 page. Do yoga every day becomes take out my yoga mat. Run a marathon becomes put on my running shoes. The beauty of this approach is that it completely disarms the flinch. Your amygdala does not perceive putting on your running shoes as a threat. There is no resistance. It is too easy to object to. But then, a wonderful thing happens. The law of inertia, which was keeping you stuck on the couch, now starts to work in your favor. An object in motion stays in motion. Once you have your running shoes on, you think, well, I might as well just step outside. Once you are outside, you think, I might as well just run to the end of the block. Once you have read 1 page, you often find yourself engrossed in the chapter. The hardest part of any task is starting. Shrink the target is a strategy designed to make starting as painless as possible. So, look at the big, intimidating tasks on your to-do list that you have been procrastinating on. For each one, ask yourself, what is the 2-minute version of this? What is a tiny step I could take right now that would get the ball rolling? Do not focus on the finish line. Focus on just taking that first, tiny, almost effortless step. Momentum is a powerful force. Your job is to simply create a tiny bit of it, and it will start to carry you. The third weapon is a mindset shift that is essential for overcoming the flinch. You must embrace imperfect action. One of the biggest drivers of procrastination is perfectionism. We flinch away from starting a task because we are afraid we will not do it perfectly. We tell ourselves we need to wait for the perfect time, for the perfect inspiration, for the perfect plan. But the perfect time never comes. Perfectionism is just fear in a tuxedo. It is a high-minded excuse for staying in your comfort zone. You must give yourself permission to do it badly. The writer Anne Lamott talks about the importance of writing shitty first drafts. The goal of a first draft is not to be brilliant. The goal of a first draft is to exist. The same is true for any new endeavor. The goal of your first workout is not to break a world record. The goal is to show up and move your body. The goal of your first sales call is not to close $1 million deal. The goal is to pick up the phone and say hello. I want you to adopt a new motto: momentum over mastery. In the beginning of any new pursuit, your only objective should be to build the habit of showing up. You can refine and improve later. If you wait for perfection, you will be waiting forever. So, the next time you feel the flinch because you are worried about the quality of your work, I want you to give yourself this instruction. My only goal for the next 25 minutes is to produce something. It does not have to be good, it just has to be done. Set a timer and go. This releases the pressure. It liberates you from the tyranny of your own expectations. And paradoxically, when you are not so focused on being perfect, you often end up doing your most creative and authentic work. So, kill the perfectionist. Embrace the messy, imperfect but powerful act of simply beginning. The fourth weapon is to become an architect of your own environment. The flinch is often triggered by friction, by the small obstacles that stand between you and the desired action. Your job is to systematically eliminate that friction for the things you want to do, and to increase it for the things you want to avoid. This is about making your desired habits easy and your undesired habits hard. If you want to go to the gym in the morning, the night before you should lay out your gym clothes, your shoes, your water bottle, and your keys. When you wake up, the path of least resistance leads you straight to the gym. If you want to write every morning, your desk should be clean, your notebook should be open, and your pen should be waiting for you. If you want to eat healthier, you should have healthy snacks easily accessible at the front of your fridge, and the junk food should be either out of the house or hidden away in an inconvenient location. Conversely, if you are procrastinating by scrolling on your phone, increase the friction. Move your social media apps to a folder on the last page of your phone. Better yet, delete them and only access them through the much clunkier web browser. Set up screen time limits that lock you out of certain apps after a set amount of time. Every small bit of friction you add creates a moment of pause, a space where you can catch yourself and make a more conscious choice. A space where you can deploy the 5-4-3-2-1 rule. Stop relying on your willpower to be strong in every moment. Willpower is a finite resource. Instead, use your moments of strength to design an environment that supports your goals. A good environment makes good habits the default option. It does the hard work for you, so you have to fight the flinch less often. Mastering the flinch is not about becoming a robot. It is not about eliminating fear or discomfort from your life. In fact, it is the opposite. It is about learning to use that feeling of resistance as a compass. The flinch is a signal. It is pointing you directly towards the thing you need to do most. The thing you are most afraid of, the thing you are procrastinating on the most, is almost always the thing that will have the most significant positive impact on your life. Your fear is a map showing you where the treasure is buried. So, when you feel the flinch, I want you to reframe it. Instead of seeing it as a stop sign, I want you to see it as a green light. The feeling of resistance is not a reason to turn back. It is confirmation that you are moving in the right direction, that you are stepping out of your comfort zone and into the territory of your own growth. This is a lifelong practice. There will be days when you lose the battle with the flinch. That is okay. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to just be a little bit better than you were yesterday. The goal is to win that battle one more time than you lose it. Each time you push through, you are casting a vote for a future self who is disciplined, courageous, and alive with the power of their own agency. You are closing the gap between the person you are and the person you have the potential to be. That gap is where regret lives. Action is the bridge across it. So, the next time you feel that familiar moment of hesitation, that internal pause, I want you to hear my voice. Recognize the flinch for what it is, a primitive, fear-based illusion. And then, I want you to take a breath, count backwards from 5, and move. Step into the discomfort. The world does not reward intentions. It rewards action. Your new life is waiting for you on the other side of that flinch. Chapter 7. The Growth Mindset, Turning Obstacles into Opportunities. We have now faced the cold, we have embraced the silence, and we have learned to push through the flinch, that critical moment of hesitation that separates intention from action. You have begun to build a powerful toolkit for facing discomfort and taking control of your life. But even with the best tools in the world, the success of any project ultimately depends on the mindset of the person wielding them. A hammer can be used to build a house or to smash a window. A cold shower can be seen as a miserable ordeal or as a crucible for building resilience. The tool is the same, but the frame through which you view it changes everything. This chapter is about upgrading that frame. It is about fundamentally rewiring the operating system of your mind so that every challenge, every setback, every single piece of friction you encounter in your life is no longer seen as a threat, but as an opportunity. This is the power of a growth mindset. The concept was pioneered by the world-renowned Stanford University psychologist Carol Dweck, who after decades of research discovered that there are two fundamental mindsets through which people view their own abilities and intelligence. These mindsets have a profound impact on every aspect of their lives, from their careers and relationships to their personal happiness and their capacity for growth. The first, and by far the most common in our society, is the fixed mindset. A person with a fixed mindset believes that their basic qualities like their intelligence, their talents, and their personality are simply fixed traits. You are born with a certain amount, and that is that. The primary goal for someone operating from a fixed mindset is to prove themselves, to look smart, to look talented, and to avoid looking dumb at all costs. Since your abilities are carved in stone, every situation becomes a test. Every task is an audition. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Think about how this plays out in real life. The student with a fixed mindset who gets a bad grade on a test concludes, "I'm just not good at math." The challenge is seen as a verdict on their innate ability. To protect their ego from another negative verdict, they will likely avoid harder math classes in the future. The employee with a fixed mindset who receives constructive criticism from their boss feels a deep sense of shame and defensiveness. The feedback is not seen as helpful information, but as a personal attack, a judgment on their fundamental competence. They may resent their boss and ignore the advice. The person with a fixed mindset who wants to learn to play the guitar picks it up, struggles for a few weeks to make the chords sound right, and then quits, thinking, "I guess I just don't have the musical gene." Effort is seen as a sign of weakness. If you were truly talented, it would come naturally. Setbacks are devastating because they are interpreted as proof of your permanent limitations, and strangely, the success of others is often viewed as a threat. If a colleague gets a promotion, the fixed mindset voice whispers, "That proves they are smarter than me," instead of seeing it as a source of inspiration or a chance to learn. The world of the fixed mindset is a world of judgment, fear, and stagnation. Now consider the alternative, the growth mindset. A person with a growth mindset believes that their abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication, hard work, and good strategies. They understand that brains and talent are just the starting point. This is not a naive belief that anyone can become an Einstein or a Mozart. It is the simple yet profound understanding that everyone's true potential is unknown and unknowable, and that it is impossible to foresee what can be accomplished with years of passion, toil, and training. For someone with a growth mindset, the goal is not to prove themselves, but to improve themselves. Life is not a series of tests to be passed or failed, but a continuous learning journey. Let's revisit our examples. The student with a growth mindset who gets a bad grade on a test concludes, "I need to change my study strategy. What can I do differently next time?" The challenge is not a verdict. It is a puzzle to be solved. They will likely seek out help, spend more time practicing, and see the difficult class as an opportunity to stretch their abilities. The employee with a growth mindset who receives constructive criticism from their boss, while they may still feel a momentary sting of disappointment, ultimately sees it as a gift. They think, "This is valuable information that can help me get better at my job." They ask clarifying questions and are grateful for the chance to improve. The person with a growth mindset who struggles with the guitar thinks, "This is really hard, which means I'm learning something new. My fingers are clumsy now, but with enough practice they will get stronger and more coordinated." Effort is not a sign of weakness. It is the very process that activates their ability and forges new neural connections. Setbacks are seen not as failures, but as an essential part of the learning process. And the success of others is a source of inspiration. They think, "Wow, they are really great at that. I should ask them how they practice." The world of the growth mindset is a world of curiosity, resilience, and limitless possibility. Reading these descriptions, you can probably see a bit of yourself in both. Most of us are a mixture of the two mindsets. We might have a growth mindset when it comes to our fitness, believing we can get stronger with consistent training, but a fixed mindset when it comes to our social skills, believing, "I'm just an awkward person." The goal of this chapter is to give you the tools to consciously and deliberately cultivate a growth mindset in every area of your life. This is the master key that unlocks the full potential of all the other voluntary hardships we have discussed. It transforms them from painful chores into exciting experiments in self-expansion. You are not just enduring the cold shower, you are teaching your nervous system to be more resilient. You are not just struggling with a new skill, you are literally building a better brain. The mindset is what gives the hardship its meaning. So how do we begin this profound shift? It is a four-step process. The first step is to simply learn to hear your fixed mindset voice. You cannot change a thought pattern until you are aware of it. This voice is often the internal narrator of your life, the one that is constantly judging and evaluating everything you do. It is the voice of your ego, desperately trying to protect you from the discomfort of challenge and the perceived shame of failure. For the next week, I want you to become a detective of your own thoughts. Carry a small notebook or use a notes app on your phone. Your only job is to notice and write down the fixed mindset thoughts as they arise. Do not judge them. Do not argue with them. Just observe them, like a scientist observing clouds in the sky. What does this voice sound like? It often appears when you are facing a new challenge. You are about to start a new project at work, and the voice says, "Are you sure you can do this? What if you mess it up and everyone thinks you are incompetent?" It appears when you encounter a setback. You try a new recipe and it comes out badly, and the voice says, "See? You can't even follow simple instructions. You are a terrible cook." It appears when you receive criticism. Someone points out a mistake in your work and the voice screams, "They think you're an idiot. How embarrassing." It appears when you see someone else succeed. Your friend runs a marathon and the voice whispers, "You could never do that. You're not athletic enough." Some other common phrases from the fixed mindset voice include, "I'm just not a math person. I'm too old to learn that. It's not my fault the instructions were unclear. If I have to try this hard, I must not be very good at it. And what if I fail? I'll be a total failure." For 1 week, your mission is simply to listen and to log, to become intimately familiar with the sound of your own self-limiting beliefs. This act of pure awareness is the essential first step. You are separating yourself from the thoughts. You are realizing that you are not the voice, you are the one who hears the voice. The second step is to recognize that you have a choice. This is a profound moment of empowerment. Just because a thought pops into your head does not mean it is true. And it certainly does not mean you have to act on it. You can acknowledge the fixed mindset voice as a natural, if misguided, attempt by your brain to keep you safe. You can say to it, "Thank you for your concern, but I've got this." You have the power to interpret the events of your life in a new way. A challenge does not have to be a threat. It can be an opportunity. A setback does not have to be a judgment. It can be a lesson. You can choose to adopt a different perspective. This is not about positive thinking in a naive sense. It is not about telling yourself, "I can do anything," when you are facing a real and difficult challenge. It is about shifting from a framework of judgment to a framework of learning and growth. It is about choosing curiosity over fear. The third and most active step is to talk back to the fixed mindset voice with a growth mindset voice. You are going to create a new internal dialogue. This requires conscious practice. Let's create a practical guide for this. Take out the list of fixed mindset thoughts you logged during your week of observation. For each one, we are going to write a specific, growth-oriented reframe. If your fixed mindset voice says, "I'm not good at this," your new growth mindset response is, "I am new to this, and like any new skill, it will take time to learn. What is one small thing I can do to get better?" If the voice says, "This is too hard, I give up," your new response is, "This is challenging, which means my brain is growing. Let me try a different strategy. Who could I ask for help?" If the voice says, "I made a huge mistake, I'm such an idiot," your new response is, "Mistakes are proof that I am trying. What is the lesson here? How can I use this experience to improve for next time?" If the voice screams, "I failed," your new response is, "This attempt did not work." Failure is an event, not an identity. It is simply data that is guiding me towards a better approach. If the voice whispers, "I could never do that," they are a natural talent. Your new response is, "I admire their skill. I wonder how many hours of deliberate practice it took for them to get that good. What can I learn from their journey and their work ethic?" If the voice warns, "Don't ask questions, you'll look stupid," your new response is, "Asking questions is a sign of intelligence and engagement. It is how I learn and accelerate my growth." If the voice says, "I can't do it," you will add one crucial word to the end of that sentence, "Yet." I can't do it yet. That single word transforms a statement of permanent limitation into a statement of future possibility. It opens the door to growth instead of slamming it shut. This practice of reframing is like learning a new language. At first, it will feel clunky and unnatural. You will have to consciously translate your old thoughts into the new vocabulary of growth. But just like any language, with consistent practice, it will become more fluent. The growth mindset voice will start to become your new default setting. It is crucial to be compassionate with yourself during this process. You have had years, perhaps decades of practice with the fixed mindset. It will not disappear overnight. The goal is not to silence the fixed mindset voice forever. The goal is to get better at recognizing it, and to make your growth mindset voice louder, stronger, and more persuasive. This brings us to the fourth and final step, which is to take growth mindset action. A mindset is not just about what you think, it is about what you do. Thinking growth-oriented thoughts without changing your behavior is just wishful thinking. You must now act in a way that is consistent with your new beliefs. This means you must intentionally seek out and embrace challenges. Look for opportunities at work, in your hobbies, and in your relationships to step just outside your comfort zone. If you are comfortable giving presentations to your small team, volunteer to present to a larger department. If you are a competent cook, try tackling a complex new cuisine. If you always read the same genre of books, pick up something from a completely different section of the library. The goal is to find what scientists call desirable difficulties. These are tasks that are not so easy that they are boring and not so hard that they are overwhelming. They are right on the edge of your current abilities. This is the zone where the fastest learning and growth occurs. When you feel that slight sense of intimidation and uncertainty, you know you are in the right place. Taking growth mindset action also means changing your relationship with effort. In a fixed mindset, the ideal is to be a natural, to achieve great results with minimal effort. This is a deeply flawed and limiting belief. In a growth mindset, you understand that effort is the magic ingredient. It is the friction that creates the spark. It is the process by which you take your raw potential and transform it into actual skill. You must learn to love the process of trying, of struggling, of pushing yourself. When you are sweating through a difficult workout, do not just focus on the discomfort. Remind yourself, this is the feeling of my body getting stronger. When your brain hurts from concentrating on a difficult problem, remind yourself, this is the feeling of my mind forging new connections. You must reframe effort, not as a cost, but as an investment in your own future capabilities. And finally, taking growth mindset action means learning how to learn from your setbacks. Setbacks are not an if, they are a when. If you are truly challenging yourself, you will inevitably stumble. You will make mistakes. You will fall short of your goals. A person with a fixed mindset sees this as a reason to quit. A person with a growth mindset sees this as the most valuable part of the process. I want to give you a specific tool for this. It is called the failure post-mortem. When something does not go as planned, instead of beating yourself up or blaming others, take out your journal and answer these 4 questions with as much honesty as you can. 1. What was my specific goal? Be precise. Not, I wanted to eat healthier, but I wanted to cook 5 healthy meals at home this week. 2. What actually happened? State the objective facts. I only cooked 2 healthy meals and ordered takeout the other 3 nights. 3. Why was there a difference between my goal and the outcome? This is the most important question. Dig deep, but do it without judgment. Was it a planning problem? I did not make a grocery list or go shopping over the weekend. Was it an energy problem? I was too exhausted after work to even think about cooking. Was it an environment problem? My kitchen was a mess, which made the idea of cooking feel overwhelming. 4. What is the single most important lesson I can learn from this, and what will I do differently next time? This is where you turn failure into fuel. The lesson is that I need to make healthy eating more convenient. Next week, I will dedicate 1 hour on Sunday to planning my meals and grocery shopping. I will also make sure the kitchen is clean before I go to bed each night. This simple exercise transforms a failure from a dead end into a critical signpost on your journey. It ensures that you never waste a setback. You either succeed or you learn. There is no other option. Embracing this new way of thinking will fundamentally change your relationship with yourself and the world. You will start to see that your identity is not a fixed thing to be defended, but a dynamic process to be cultivated. You will stop thinking of yourself as a collection of nouns. I am a good writer. I am a bad public speaker. And start thinking of yourself as a collection of verbs. I am practicing my writing. I am learning to speak more effectively in public. This shift from a static identity to a process-based identity is liberating. It means that a single performance, good or bad, does not define you. What defines you is your commitment to the process, your willingness to stay in the game, to keep learning, to keep trying, and to keep growing. This is the ultimate form of voluntary hardship. It is the challenge of choosing learning over comfort, growth over safety, and courage over approval. It is the hard work of rewiring your most fundamental beliefs about who you are and what you are capable of. It will not always be easy. The fixed mindset is seductive. It offers the easy excuse, the comfort of blaming your circumstances or your genetics. The growth mindset offers no such refuge. It demands that you take ownership of your life. It insists that your abilities are your responsibility. But in exchange for that demanding responsibility, it gives you the greatest gift of all, the freedom to become a better version of yourself every single day. The obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is the way. Your mind is not a stone, it is a garden, and you are the gardener. Now, it is time to get to work. Chapter 8. Building your tribe. The power of shared hardship. We have spent the majority of our journey together so far on an internal pilgrimage. We have ventured into the depths of our own psychology, confronting our cravings for comfort, our fear of the cold, our addiction to distraction, our hesitation to act, and the self-limiting beliefs that hold us captive. This inner work is the bedrock of a strong and resilient life. It is absolutely non-negotiable, but if our journey ends there, within the solitary confines of our own mind, we have missed a crucial and beautiful piece of the puzzle. The path to unshakable inner strength is not a path that is meant to be walked alone. Humans are, and have always been, a social species. Our greatest triumphs, from building pyramids to landing on the moon, have been the result of collective effort. Our survival for millennia depended not on the strength of the individual, but on the cohesion of the tribe. In our modern, hyper-individualistic world, we have begun to forget this ancient truth. We have been sold a myth of the lone wolf, the rugged individualist who pulls themselves up by their own bootstraps. But this is a lonely and ultimately fragile way to live. True, lasting and meaningful strength is forged, tempered and sustained in the context of a community. This chapter is about the profound and often overlooked power of shared hardship. It is about how to find, build and nurture a tribe that will not just support you on your journey, but will actively challenge you, hold you accountable, and elevate you to heights you could never reach on your own. At its core, voluntary hardship is a lonely endeavor. You are the one who has to get out of the warm bed. You are the one who has to endure the cold shower. You are the one who has to sit in the uncomfortable silence. No one can do the push-ups for you. But when that solitary struggle is placed within a shared context, something magical happens. The hardship itself does not change, but its meaning is transformed. It ceases to be a mere act of self-discipline and becomes an act of communion, a ritual of mutual commitment. The suffering is no longer a burden to be borne, but a bond to be forged. There is a deep and powerful science behind this phenomenon. When we go through an intense or difficult experience with other people, our brains release a powerful cocktail of neurochemicals that create a deep and lasting sense of connection. One of the key players is oxytocin, often called the love hormone or the bonding hormone. Oxytocin is released during experiences of social connection, like a hug or a deep conversation. It reduces fear, increases trust, and promotes feelings of empathy. Research has shown that when people are in a stressful situation together, their oxytocin levels can surge, creating a powerful tend and befriend response that makes them want to support and protect each other. This is the neurochemical glue that binds soldiers together in a foxhole, that unites a sports team in the final minutes of a championship game, and that turns a group of strangers into a lifelong family after they survive a natural disaster together. When you and a friend decide to train for a marathon together, every grueling long run, every sore muscle, every moment you want to quit but do not because you see them pushing on, you are marinating your brains in this powerful bonding agent. The shared hardship is the catalyst for a connection that is far deeper than one forged over casual conversation or easy entertainment. This bonding is not just a feeling, it has a profound effect on our performance and our perseverance. This leads us to the single most practical benefit of a tribe, Accountability. How many times have you set a goal for yourself, full of motivation and good intentions, only to have it fizzle out after a few weeks? The reason is simple. When you are the only person who knows about your commitment, you are also the only person you have to let down. It is incredibly easy to negotiate with yourself, to make excuses, to say, "I'll start again on Monday." But when you have made a commitment to another person or to a group, the stakes are immediately raised. The social cost of quitting becomes higher. This is not about shame or guilt. It is about harnessing the positive power of social expectation. When you know that your running partner is waiting for you on a cold, dark morning, you are far more likely to get out of bed. You are not just running for yourself anymore. You are running for them too. This mutual responsibility is the engine that will carry you through the inevitable dips in your own motivation. A tribe also provides a crucial source of perspective and encouragement. The path of growth is not a straight line. There will be days when you feel frustrated, when you hit a plateau, when you doubt the entire process. In these moments of solitude, the fixed mindset voice can become deafening. But when you are part of a tribe, you have access to a collective well of wisdom and experience. Someone else in your group has likely faced the exact same struggle you are facing now. They can offer advice, share what worked for them, and most importantly, remind you that plateaus are a normal part of the process. Their simple words, "I've been there. It gets better. Just keep showing up," can be the lifeline that pulls you through a period of self-doubt. They can see your progress when you are too close to it to see it yourself. They can celebrate your small victories, which reinforces your commitment and helps you build momentum. A good tribe acts as an external growth mindset, constantly reflecting your potential back to you, especially on the days when you cannot see it for yourself. So, if having a tribe is so crucial, how do you go about building one? For many people, this can be the most intimidating challenge of all, especially in an age of increasing social isolation. But like any other skill, building a community is a process that can be learned and practiced. It starts with a simple but potentially confronting exercise, the tribe audit. Just as we audited our relationship with comfort in the first chapter, we must now take an honest inventory of our social landscape. Take out your journal and spend some time reflecting on these questions. 1. Who are the 5 people you spend the most of your free time with? List them by name. 2. For each person, ask yourself, when I am with this person, do I feel more energized or more drained? Do they inspire me to be a better version of myself, or do they subtly encourage me to stay the same? 3. Think about the last time you shared a new goal or a positive change you were trying to make. How did these 5 people react? Were they genuinely curious and supportive? Were they indifferent? Or did they respond with skepticism or even a subtle form of sabotage like, "Oh, another one of your phases," or "Why are you being so extreme?" 4. Who in your life, even if you do not spend a lot of time with them, already embodies the principles of voluntary hardship? Who do you admire for their discipline, their resilience, and their commitment to growth? This audit is not an exercise in judging your friends and family. It is an exercise in awareness. The famous speaker Jim Rohn said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not just a catchy phrase. It is a reflection of a powerful psychological principle called social contagion. Attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors are contagious. If you are surrounded by people who are cynical, who complain constantly, and who prioritize comfort above all else, their mindset will inevitably seep into your own. Conversely, if you surround yourself with people who are optimistic, who take responsibility for their lives, and who actively seek out challenges, you will find yourself naturally rising to meet their standard. Your tribe audit will give you a clear map of the social currents in your life. It will show you where you are getting support and where you are facing resistance. Once you have this awareness, the next step is to be intentional about shaping your social environment. This is a two-part process: finding and nurturing the right connections and navigating the relationships that may be holding you back. Let's start with the proactive part: finding your tribe. The good news is that people who are committed to growth tend to congregate in certain places. You just need to know where to look. Your first port of call should be within your existing network. Is there a friend, a sibling, or a cousin who has expressed a similar desire for self-improvement? Perhaps they have mentioned wanting to get in shape, read more, or learn a new skill. Your task is to be the catalyst. Instead of just talking about it, make a specific proposal. Do not say, "We should work out sometime." Say, "I'm going to start doing a bodyweight workout at the park every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. It would be awesome if you joined me. We can hold each other accountable." Do not say, "We should read more." Say, "I'm reading this challenging book right now. Would you be interested in reading it at the same time so we can discuss it once a week?" Making a specific, actionable invitation transforms a vague intention into a concrete plan. It gives people something real to say yes to. You might be surprised who in your life is just waiting for someone else to take the lead. The second and most powerful strategy is to join existing groups that are built around a shared, challenging activity. The hardship is the filter. It weeds out the uncommitted and attracts people who are already aligned with the values of effort and discipline. The options here are nearly endless. If you want to build physical and mental toughness, walk into a CrossFit gym, a martial arts dojo, or a climbing gym. The very nature of these activities involves pushing your limits in a supportive group setting. You will struggle together, you will cheer each other on, and you will form bonds forged in sweat and effort. If you want to conquer the fear of public speaking, join your local Toastmasters club. Every single person in that room is voluntarily facing one of the most common human fears. The environment is designed for supportive feedback and incremental growth. If you want to connect with nature and challenge your endurance, find a local hiking or running club. Training for a race or a long trek with a group provides a built-in structure of shared goals and mutual encouragement. If you want to contribute to something larger than yourself while engaging in physical labor, volunteer for an organization like Habitat for Humanity. The act of building a house for a family in need alongside other volunteers is a powerful form of shared, meaningful hardship. The key is to choose an activity that genuinely interests you and that has a built-in element of progressive challenge. Go where the growth is happening, and you will find the growers. What if the group you need does not exist? Then your job is to create it. This is simpler than it sounds. You can start your own tribe of shared hardship with just 2 or 3 other people. This is often called a mastermind or an accountability group. The process is straightforward. First, identify 2 to 4 people who you admire and who seem to be on a similar path. They could be colleagues, friends, or even acquaintances. Second, send them a clear and concise invitation. It could sound something like this. "Hi name, I'm working on some ambitious personal and professional goals this year, and I've been thinking about how powerful it is to have a small group for support and accountability. I've always been impressed by your drive, and I'm reaching out to a few people to see if they'd be interested in forming a small group. My vision is a simple, no-nonsense weekly check-in, maybe just 20 minutes every Monday morning via video call, where we each state our main goal for the week and briefly report on our progress from the last week. The goal is to provide a structure of focus and mutual support. Would you be open to a conversation about this?" The key elements of this invitation are that it is respectful of their time, 20 minutes. It has a clear structure, and it states a positive purpose. Once you have your members, establish a simple charter. What is the shared mission of the group? What is the commitment each member is making? How will you handle it if someone consistently fails to show up or participate? A little bit of structure at the beginning goes a long way. This small dedicated group can become your personal board of directors, your inner circle that you can turn to for advice, celebration, and a necessary kick in the pants when you are slacking off. Now, finding your tribe is only half the battle. You must also learn how to be a good tribe member. A thriving community is not about what you can get, but about what you can give. The first rule of being a good tribe member is to lead with vulnerability. In a group dedicated to growth, struggle is not a sign of weakness. It is the price of admission. Be the first to admit when you are having a hard time, when you failed to meet your goal, or when you are feeling discouraged. This act of honest self-disclosure is a gift to the group. It shatters the illusion of perfection and gives everyone else permission to be human. It creates a space of psychological safety where real issues can be discussed and real support can be given. The second rule is to become a master of encouragement. Actively look for reasons to praise the effort and progress of others, no matter how small. Did someone in your group finally make the difficult phone call they had been avoiding? Celebrate that with them. Did they stick to their workout plan for a full week? Acknowledge their consistency. This positive reinforcement is the fuel that keeps the group's momentum going. It costs you nothing to give, and it is priceless to receive. The third rule is to learn how to hold the line. This is the art of accountability. It is not about shaming or nagging. It is about gently but firmly reminding people of the commitments they made to themselves. It requires what is sometimes called tough empathy. It sounds like, I hear that you had a really tough week and didn't make progress on that project. That sounds really draining. What is one small step you could take this week to get back on track with the goal you told us was so important to you? You are validating their struggle while simultaneously calling them back to their own stated aspirations. This brings us to the most difficult part of building your tribe. Navigating the negative social pressure from people who are not on this path with you. When you start to change, when you start to grow, it can make the people around you uncomfortable. Your new discipline can shine a light on their own lack of it. Your new optimism can clash with their ingrained cynicism. There is a powerful metaphor for this phenomenon known as the crab bucket. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it can easily climb out. But if you put a group of crabs in a bucket, as soon as one starts to climb out, the others will reach up and pull it back down. This is a sad but accurate depiction of a certain type of human behavior. You must be prepared for this. Some of the people in your life will become your crab bucket. How do you handle this? The first impulse might be to become defensive or to preach to them about your new way of life. This is almost always a mistake. It just creates more resistance. Your first strategy should be to calmly and confidently communicate your why. Do not talk about what you are doing, talk about why you are doing it. For example, if a friend teases you for getting up early to work out, instead of getting defensive, you can say something like, I've just found that when I start my day with some physical effort, I have way more energy, and I'm just a happier, more patient person to be around for the rest of the day. It's really making a big difference for me. You are not judging them. You are simply sharing your own positive experience. The second strategy is to set clear and loving boundaries. If your friend's primary social activity is going out drinking late at night and that no longer aligns with your goals, you do not need to cut them off. You can set a boundary. I'd love to see you guys, but I'm not doing late nights out anymore. Could we get together for a hike on Saturday afternoon instead? You are proposing an alternative, not just rejecting their invitation. Some people will respect your new boundaries and some will not. Their reaction is data. It tells you about the health of that relationship. Ultimately, the most powerful strategy is to simply be the lighthouse. A lighthouse does not run all over the island looking for boats to save. It just stands there and shines. Do not argue, do not preach. Do not try to convert anyone. Just do the work. Let the results speak for themselves. Be a walking, talking embodiment of the principles you are learning. Let your own energy, your own focus, your own resilience be your most persuasive argument. Over time, one of two things will happen. Some people will be inspired by your example. They will see the positive changes in you and become curious. They may even ask if they can join you. Others will slowly drift away as your paths diverge. This can be sad, but it is also a natural and necessary part of growth. You must be willing to let go of the relationships that are keeping you anchored to a version of yourself that you are trying to move beyond. Building your tribe is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process of cultivation. It requires effort, courage, and a willingness to be both a student and a leader. But the rewards are immeasurable. To have a group of people in your life who see your potential, who hold you to a high standard, who share in your struggles and celebrate your victories, is one of the greatest treasures a human being can possess. It is the external support structure that makes your inner strength truly unbreakable. The path of voluntary hardship can be a cold and lonely road, or it can be a vibrant, challenging, and joyful journey. The difference is the people you choose to walk it with. So, look around you. Who is in your foxhole? Who is climbing the mountain alongside you? Find them, create them, nurture them, because we are, and always will be, stronger together. Chapter 9. The Resilient Life. Integrating voluntary hardship for the long haul. We have arrived at a critical juncture in our journey together. We have diagnosed the creeping malaise of the comfort crisis. We have learned from the timeless wisdom of the ancients, and we have armed ourselves with the modern science of personal transformation. We have faced the tangible shock of the cold, the disquieting silence of the unplugged mind, the universal hesitation of the flinch, the self-limiting stories of the fixed mindset, and the profound need for a tribe to share the struggle. You now possess a formidable arsenal of tools and strategies. You have everything you need to begin. But it is here, at the peak of initial motivation, that the greatest danger lies. The danger is the belief that this is a project with a finish line. The danger is the seductive allure of the grand, heroic gesture, followed by an inevitable collapse back into old patterns. This chapter is not about adding another tool to your belt. It is about building the workshop where you will use these tools for the rest of your life. It is about moving from the exciting but fleeting intensity of a sprint to the steady, sustainable, and ultimately more powerful rhythm of a lifelong marathon. This is the art of integration. This is how you build a resilient life that lasts. Let us first confront a common enemy of all self-improvement, the fallacy of the grand gesture. We see this every January as millions of people filled with the spirit of a new year make sweeping, dramatic resolutions. They vow to go from a sedentary lifestyle to working out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. They decide to completely eliminate sugar, gluten, and all processed foods from their diet overnight. They commit to writing 1,000 words of their novel every single day, even though they have not written anything in years. There is a powerful, intoxicating dopamine hit that comes from this kind of planning. It feels good to imagine this new, disciplined, superhuman version of ourselves. We are heroes in the movie of our own minds. But what happens when the harsh reality of day 3 or day 10 sets in? The soreness from the excessive workouts becomes unbearable. The cravings for the forbidden foods become a constant draining battle. The pressure to produce 1,000 perfect words every day leads to paralyzing writer's block. The grand gesture, so inspiring in theory, proves to be utterly unsustainable in practice. The motivation wanes. A single slip-up is interpreted as a total failure, and by February, the vast majority of these heroic resolutions have been abandoned. The fortress of self-discipline, built too quickly on a foundation of unsustainable intensity, crumbles into a pile of guilt and resignation. This all-or-nothing approach is a trap of the fixed mindset. It is based on the idea that you can simply decide to become a new person overnight. The growth mindset teaches us a more patient, more compassionate, and infinitely more effective path. The path of the bricklayer. A master bricklayer does not try to build an entire wall in a single day. They show up, day after day, and they lay one brick perfectly. They focus on the process, on the small, consistent action. They know that the wall is the inevitable result of thousands of perfectly laid bricks. Your resilient life is that wall, and each small, voluntary hardship you practice is a single brick. The goal is not to exhaust yourself by trying to lay 100 bricks in an hour. The goal is to develop the habit of showing up every day and laying 1 or 2 or 3 perfectly. The consistency of the action is far more important than the intensity of any single effort. A 20-minute walk every single day for a year is profoundly more transformative than running a marathon once and then doing nothing for the next 6 months. A 2-minute cold shower every morning will build more lasting resilience than a single traumatic ice bath that you never repeat. You must fall in love with the process of laying the bricks. You must learn to find the satisfaction not in the imagined future wall, but in the simple, present moment act of doing the work. This brings us to the practical science of finding your optimal dose of hardship. We have touched on the concept of hormesis, the idea that a small, controlled dose of a stressor makes the body stronger. The key words here are small and controlled. The goal is not to overwhelm the system. It is to gently nudge it, to provide just enough of a stimulus to trigger an adaptive response, but not so much that you cause damage or burnout. Think of it like a vaccination. A vaccine introduces a tiny, weakened dose of a virus into your system. It is just enough of a threat to activate your immune system and teach it how to build defenses, but not enough to actually make you sick. Voluntary hardship should be approached in the same way. You are strategically vaccinating yourself against the softness of modern life. Your mission is to find what the fitness world calls the minimum effective dose. What is the smallest amount of effort that will produce the desired result? This is a radical shift from the more is always better mentality that our culture often promotes. We are not looking for the maximum tolerable dose. We are looking for the minimum effective dose that we can apply consistently over a long period of time. How do you find this sweet spot, this hormetic zone? It requires you to become a scientist in the laboratory of your own life. You must learn to listen to the signals your body and mind are sending you. You need to develop a keen sense of self-awareness to know when you are pushing too hard and when you are not pushing hard enough. Let's create a simple framework for this, a kind of internal gauge we can call the discomfort scale. Imagine a scale from 1 to 10. A 1 represents a state of complete comfort and ease, like lying on a couch watching your favorite show. A 10 represents a state of absolute, overwhelming, and potentially dangerous overload, like trying to run an ultramarathon with a high fever. Your goal is not to live at a 10. That is the path to injury and burnout. Your goal is also not to live at a 1. That is the path of stagnation and atrophy. The hormetic zone, the sweet spot for sustainable growth, lies in the 6 to 8 range. A 6 on this scale is a noticeable challenge. It is the feeling of your first 30-second cold shower. It is the initial awkwardness of trying a new workout move. It is the mental friction of sitting down to read a difficult book. It is uncomfortable, but you know you can handle it. An 8 on this scale is a significant challenge. It requires your full focus and a high degree of effort. This might be a 2-minute ice bath, a high-intensity workout that leaves you gasping for breath, or having a difficult but necessary conversation. It pushes you right up to the edge of your current limits. The practice of building a resilient life involves learning to dance between these numbers. Most of your daily practices, your non-negotiables, should probably live around a 6. They should be challenging enough to require effort, but not so draining that they deplete you for the rest of the day. Your weekly or monthly challenges are where you might push yourself into the 7 or 8 range to intentionally expand your capacity. So how do you know if you are consistently pushing too hard, if you are living at a 9 or a 10? Your body will tell you. The key signs of overtraining, or more accurately, under-recovering, include persistent fatigue and a lack of energy, a noticeable decline in your performance, chronic muscle soreness that does not go away, an elevated resting heart rate when you first wake up, poor sleep quality or difficulty falling asleep, increased irritability and mood swings, a loss of motivation for the very activities you used to enjoy, and getting sick more often. These are not signs of weakness. They are important biological signals that you are applying too much stress without enough recovery. If you are experiencing several of these symptoms, it is a clear sign that you need to dial back the intensity, to reduce your hardship dose, and to dramatically increase your focus on rest and recovery. Conversely, how do you know if you are not pushing hard enough? If you are getting comfortable in the 3 to 4 range? The signs are more subtle. The primary sign is a lack of progress. Are you still lifting the same weights you were 6 months ago? Is your mile time the same? Are you still avoiding the same types of difficult conversations? Another sign is boredom. The challenge that once felt like a 6 now feels like a 3. That 30-second cold shower that used to shock your system now feels routine and easy. This is not a failure. It is a success. It is a sign that you have adapted, your capacity has grown, your comfort zone has expanded, and this is your cue to apply the principle of progressive overload. It is time to increase the dose. Maybe you make the shower colder or stay in for longer. Maybe you add a little more weight to the barbell. Maybe you choose a more challenging book to read. The resilient life is a constant process of adaptation and recalibration, of listening to your body's feedback and adjusting the dose of the stimulus accordingly. With this understanding of sustainability and titration, we can now design your personal hardship protocol. This is not a one-size-fits-all prescription. It is a flexible framework that you will adapt to your own life, your own goals, and your own current capacity. The most effective way to structure this is to think in terms of different time horizons. We will create a system of daily practices, weekly challenges, and monthly resets. Let's start with your daily practices. These are your non-negotiables. They are the small, foundational habits that you will perform every single day, no matter what. These are the bricks you lay. The key here is that these practices should be relatively short and should fall in the 5 to 6 range on the discomfort scale. They should be challenging enough to be meaningful, but not so demanding that they derail your entire day if you are tired or busy. Your goal is to choose 1 or 2 practices from each of the 3 domains we have explored: the physical, the mental, and the emotional. For the physical domain, your daily practice could be a 2-minute cold shower, taking the stairs instead of the elevator all day, doing a 5-minute mobility routine first thing in the morning, or committing to a specific number of push-ups or squats throughout the day. For the mental domain, it could be reading 10 pages of a challenging book, practicing a new language on an app for 10 minutes, doing a 10-minute mindfulness meditation, or practicing the line test we discussed by not using your phone whenever you are waiting. For the emotional domain, it could be a 5-minute journaling practice on the question, "What am I feeling right now?" Practicing the 5 to 4 to 3 2 1 rule on one small act of procrastination, or making a conscious effort to give one piece of genuine specific praise to someone in your life. The goal is to choose a small handful of these practices, your daily 5, for example, and to commit to executing them with absolute consistency. They are the bedrock of your resilient life. Next, we have your weekly challenges. This is where you will intentionally push yourself into the 7 or 8 range on the discomfort scale. This is a more significant, planned event that you will undertake once a week. It provides a larger stimulus for growth and prevents you from getting complacent with your daily practices. Your weekly challenge should be something that you both anticipate and are slightly intimidated by. Again, let's look at our 3 domains. A physical weekly challenge could be one high-intensity workout that pushes you to your limit, a long run or hike that is significantly longer than your usual distance, a 24-hour fast from dinner one night to dinner the next, or a 5 to 10-minute ice bath. A mental weekly challenge could be a 2-hour deep work session with 0 distractions, where you tackle your most important and cognitively demanding task, spending an hour learning a complex skill that is completely new to you, or writing a 1,000-word essay on a topic you want to understand more deeply. An emotional weekly challenge could be initiating one difficult but necessary conversation that you have been avoiding, volunteering for a cause that exposes you to a different and potentially uncomfortable side of life, or practicing radical honesty for a full day by committing to saying what you truly think and feel with compassion but without sugarcoating. You should schedule this challenge in your calendar just like you would schedule an important meeting. It is a standing appointment with your own growth. Finally, we have your monthly or quarterly resets. These are larger-scale events that serve to dramatically expand your comfort zone and provide a new perspective on your daily life. These are the experiences that you will look back on as significant turning points. They require more planning and a greater commitment of time and energy, and they will likely push you into the 8 or 9 range on the discomfort scale. A physical monthly reset could be participating in a local 5K or 10K race, a full weekend backpacking or camping trip where you have to rely on your own resourcefulness, or a multi-day fast or nutritional reset under proper guidance. A mental monthly reset could be a full 48-hour digital detox where you turn off your phone and computer from Friday evening to Monday morning, attending a weekend workshop or seminar on a topic that fascinates you, or completing a small but meaningful project from start to finish, like building a piece of furniture or creating a short film. An emotional and spiritual monthly reset could be a silent retreat for a day or a weekend, a solo trip to a place you have never been before, or dedicating a full day to service, spending 8 hours volunteering for a single cause. These larger resets are powerful because they completely remove you from your normal environment and your habitual patterns. They act as a powerful recalibration for your system, and when you return to your normal life, your daily practices will seem much easier in comparison. To make this all concrete, you must become the architect of your own growth. You need to create what I call a hardship calendar. At the beginning of each month, sit down and map it out. Write down your daily practices that you will commit to every day. Then, look at the weeks ahead and schedule your weekly challenge. Be specific. Do not write hard workout. Write Saturday 9 a.m. complete the Murph workout at the CrossFit gym. Finally, look at the next 3 months and plan your next quarterly reset. Book the campsite, register for the race, sign up for the workshop. This act of planning and scheduling transforms your vague desires for self-improvement into a concrete, actionable plan. It takes the decision-making burden off of your future self. When you wake up on a cold Saturday morning, you do not have to debate whether or not you feel like doing a hard workout. The decision has already been made. Your only job is to execute the plan. Now, we must discuss the other, equally important side of this equation. The side that our ambition-obsessed culture often ignores. The sacred symbiosis of stress and rest. You must understand this on a deep biological level. Growth does not happen during the moment of stress. Growth happens during the period of recovery that follows the stress. When you lift a heavy weight, you are creating microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. The muscle does not get stronger during the lift. It gets stronger in the 24 to 48 hours afterward as your body repairs those tears and adds new fibers to be better prepared for the next time it faces that load. The same is true for your mind, your nervous system, and your spirit. The cold shower stresses your system, but the adaptation happens in the hours afterward as your body returns to homeostasis. The deep work session fatigues your brain, but the new neural connections are solidified during your sleep that night. Stress plus rest equals growth. Stress without adequate rest equals burnout, injury, and breakdown. Therefore, you must treat your recovery with the same seriousness and intentionality that you treat your hardship. Rest is not a luxury. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a biological necessity for the very growth you are seeking. You must become a master of recovery. And the foundation of all recovery is sleep. High-quality sleep is the single most effective, performance-enhancing, resilience-building, and health-promoting activity you can engage in. During deep sleep, your body repairs tissues, your immune system recharges, and your brain goes through a remarkable cleaning process. A substance called cerebrospinal fluid flushes through your brain, clearing out the metabolic waste that has accumulated during the day. This is why you feel so clear-headed after a good night's sleep and so foggy after a bad one. You must make sleep a non-negotiable priority. This means creating a sleep sanctuary. Your bedroom should be as dark, as quiet, and as cool as possible. It means implementing the digital sunset we discussed, turning off all screens at least an hour before bed. It means avoiding caffeine in the afternoon and heavy meals late at night. Protecting your sleep is the most important act of self-discipline you can practice. Beyond sleep, you must also incorporate active and psychological recovery into your life. Active recovery involves low-intensity movement that promotes blood flow and helps your body repair itself. This includes things like gentle walking, stretching, foam rolling, or a restorative yoga class. These activities are crucial, especially the day after a particularly intense weekly challenge. Psychological recovery is about giving your mind a chance to truly rest and recharge. This is not the same as distraction. Mindlessly scrolling through social media or binge-watching a television show is not true rest. It is just a different kind of stimulation. True psychological rest comes from activities that are restorative and that do not demand a high cognitive load. Spending time in nature, listening to calming music, engaging in a creative hobby like painting or playing an instrument, or simply having a relaxed, unstructured conversation with a loved one. You must schedule this kind of downtime into your hardship calendar with the same diligence that you schedule your challenges. A weekly schedule that includes 3 to 4 days of hard practices should also include 3 to 4 days of dedicated recovery practices. They are two sides of the same coin. The resilient life, then, is not a life of relentless, grim-faced toughness. It is not about being a machine that never stops. It is a life of rhythm. It is a dance between pushing and yielding, between stress and rest, between the focused effort of the day and the deep surrender of the night. It is the life of a master craftsman who knows when to apply pressure and when to step back, who has the patience to lay one brick at a time, and who understands that the strength of the wall depends as much on the mortar of recovery as it does on the bricks of hardship. This is a path of intelligent strength, of sustainable growth. It is a path you can walk not just for a month or a year, but for a lifetime. Become the architect of your practice. Honor the rhythm of stress and rest, and build, brick by patient brick, a life of unbreakable strength and profound vitality. Chapter 10. The Unbreakable Spirit, the ultimate reward of a challenging life. We have reached the final chapter of our journey together, the summit of the mountain we have been climbing. We began in the comfortable, padded valley of modern life, sensing that something was amiss, that our ease had come at a hidden cost. We then began our ascent, guided by the timeless wisdom of those who walked this path before us and the clear, bright light of modern science. We learned to embrace the bracing shock of the cold, to find solace in the profound quiet of an unplugged mind, to push through the universal hesitation of the flinch, and to rewrite the self-limiting stories of a fixed mindset. We discovered the indispensable power of a tribe to share the load and amplify our strength. And we have just learned how to weave these powerful practices into a sustainable, lifelong rhythm of intelligent challenge and sacred rest. We have built the how. Now, in this final chapter, we return to the most important question of all, the why. What is the ultimate reward for all this effort? What is the grand prize waiting at the end of this harder path? The answer is not what you might think. The ultimate reward is not a life free from problems. It is not a permanent state of blissful happiness or an impenetrable shield that deflects all pain. To seek such a life is to seek a fantasy, to deny the fundamental nature of the human experience. The world will always present you with challenges you did not choose: sickness, loss, disappointment, failure, and injustice. No amount of training can make you immune to the realities of life. So what is it all for? The ultimate reward for a life of voluntary hardship is the forging of an unbreakable spirit. It is the quiet, unshakable, and deeply earned confidence that no matter what life throws at you, you will be able to handle it. It is the transformation of your very relationship with suffering, from something to be feared and avoided at all costs, to something that can be met with courage, grace, and even a sense of profound meaning. It is the discovery of a strength within you that you never knew you possessed. A strength that is not brittle, but flexible, not rigid, but resilient. It is the freedom that comes from knowing that while you cannot always control the events of your life, you have absolute power over your response. This inner freedom is the real prize. This is the unbreakable spirit. To understand this transformation, we must first revisit our relationship with happiness itself. Our modern culture has sold us a very specific and ultimately unsatisfying version of happiness. It is a happiness based on the Greek concept of hedonia, the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. It is a happiness that is dependent on external things: a new car, a promotion at work, a perfect relationship, a delicious meal, a like on a social media post. The problem with this model of happiness is twofold. First, it is fleeting. The pleasure from a new purchase quickly fades, a phenomenon known as the hedonic treadmill. We get a temporary boost. Our baseline of satisfaction resets to a new, higher level, and we soon find ourselves needing the next external hit to feel good again. It is a never-ending and ultimately exhausting chase. Second, it is fragile. Because this happiness depends on external conditions, it is completely at the mercy of a world we cannot control. If you lose your job, or your relationship ends, or your body gets sick, your source of happiness is gone, and you are left with a terrifying void. A life of voluntary hardship offers a different path. It is a path towards a deeper, more enduring form of well-being, a state the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is often translated as flourishing, and it has little to do with fleeting pleasure. It is a state of being that arises from living a life of virtue, of striving towards your full potential, of actualizing the best version of yourself. It is the deep satisfaction that comes from overcoming a great challenge. It is the quiet pride that comes from acting with integrity when it would have been easier to do otherwise. It is the sense of meaning that comes from contributing to something larger than yourself. Eudaimonia is not a feeling you chase. It is the natural byproduct of a life well lived. It is the reward for choosing the harder, more meaningful path. When you choose to get up early to train, to face the cold, to have the difficult conversation, you are not engaging in a hedonistic act. In fact, you are doing the opposite. You are trading short-term comfort for long-term character. And in doing so, you are building a source of self-esteem and contentment that is internal, stable, and completely under your own control. You are stepping off the hedonic treadmill and onto the path of genuine human flourishing. Your happiness is no longer a fragile thing that can be taken from you. It is a fortress that you have built within yourself, brick by disciplined brick. This inner fortress is more than just resilient. Resilience is the ability to withstand a shock and bounce back to your original shape, like a rubber ball. But a life of voluntary hardship builds something even more powerful. It builds what the scholar and author Nassim Nicholas Taleb has termed anti-fragility. Anti-fragility is the quality of things that gain from disorder. An anti-fragile system does not just survive stress, it feeds on it. It becomes stronger, more intelligent, and more robust as a direct result of being challenged. Think of the difference. A fragile teacup shatters when you drop it. A resilient rubber ball bounces back to its original form. But an anti-fragile system, like the human immune system, when it is exposed to a virus, it does not just bounce back to its original state. It develops antibodies. It learns. It becomes stronger and better equipped to handle that specific stressor in the future. This entire book has been a manual for building an anti-fragile life. Every time you step into the cold shower, your nervous system does not just tolerate the shock, it adapts. It becomes more efficient at regulating temperature and managing stress. It becomes anti-fragile. Every time you push through the flinch and tackle a difficult task, your willpower does not just get you through the moment, it gets stronger for the next battle. It becomes anti-fragile. Every time you receive critical feedback with a growth mindset, your ego is not just preserved, your understanding deepens and your skill improves. Your character becomes anti-fragile. Every time your tribe supports you through a setback, your social bonds do not just hold, they deepen and become more trustworthy. Your community becomes anti-fragile. You are no longer just trying to avoid being broken by the chaos of the world. You are actively using the inevitable stresses of life as a catalyst for your own evolution. You begin to welcome challenges, not because you are a masochist, but because you understand, on a cellular level, that the obstacle is the fuel. This is a fundamental paradigm shift. It is the difference between playing defense and playing offense in the game of life. This anti-fragile nature leads to one of the most profound rewards of this path: the gradual dissolution of fear. So much of our modern anxiety stems from our perceived inability to handle discomfort. We fear failure because we are afraid of the shame and disappointment it will bring. We fear rejection because we are afraid of the pain of not being accepted. We fear the difficult conversation because we are afraid of the emotional turmoil it might unleash. We live our lives in a small, padded cage, constrained by the fear of these negative feelings. But what happens when you have spent months or years voluntarily and systematically exposing yourself to discomfort? What happens when you have learned, through direct experience, that you can survive the shock of the cold, the agony of a grueling workout, the sting of criticism, and the awkwardness of a difficult conversation? The fear loses its power. It is no longer a terrifying, unknown monster lurking in the shadows. It is a familiar sensation, a feeling you have met and danced with 1,000 times before. You have built a deep, evidence-based trust in your own ability to handle hardship. This practice is, in essence, a lifelong dress rehearsal for the non-negotiable adversities of human existence. Because one day a hardship will arrive that you did not choose. It will be a diagnosis from a doctor, a phone call in the middle of the night, a betrayal from someone you trust, or the quiet, empty space where a loved one used to be. These moments are the true tests of our spirit. And when that day comes, you will be grateful for every single cold shower, for every single workout you did not want to do, for every single difficult conversation you forced yourself to have. You will not be meeting real adversity for the first time. You will have been training for this moment your entire life. You will have a nervous system that knows how to find calm in the storm. You will have a mind that knows how to look for the lesson in the loss. You will have a spirit that knows how to endure. This is the ultimate freedom, not the freedom from suffering, but the freedom from the fear of suffering. It is the ability to walk through the world with your head held high, not because you believe that nothing bad will ever happen to you, but because you know that you have the strength to face whatever comes. It is in this crucible of challenge that we often find our deepest sense of purpose. The Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, in his monumental book, Man's Search for Meaning, observed that the inmates in the concentration camps who were most likely to survive were not necessarily the physically strongest, but those who had a why to live for, a sense of purpose that transcended their unimaginable suffering. He famously wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. A life dedicated to the relentless pursuit of comfort rarely provides a compelling why. It is a life focused inward, on the satisfaction of one's own fleeting desires. But a life of voluntary hardship, of striving and overcoming, naturally points us outward. It forces us to ask bigger questions. What am I willing to suffer for? What challenge is so important to me that I am willing to endure the discomfort required to meet it? The answer to that question is the beginning of your purpose. Purpose is not some magical thing you find under a rock. It is something you build. You build it by taking on responsibility. You build it by committing to a craft and pouring your effort into becoming excellent at it. You build it by dedicating yourself to the service of others, whether it is your family, your community, or a cause you believe in. All of these paths require hardship. They all require you to subordinate your own short-term comfort to a larger, more meaningful goal. And in doing so, they give your life a narrative, a story. You are no longer just a collection of random events and desires. You are the hero of a journey, a person who is willing to face dragons, both internal and external, in the pursuit of a worthy prize. The ultimate reward of a challenging life is not a comfortable life, it is a meaningful one. And a meaningful life is the only kind that can truly satisfy the human spirit. So, we arrive at the end of our beginning. I want you to look back for a moment, not at the pages of this book, but at the landscape of your own character. See the small calluses that have begun to form on your spirit. Feel the new strength in your resolve. Notice the quiet confidence that is beginning to take root where the weeds of anxiety once grew. This is the fruit of your labor. But this is not a final destination. The unbreakable spirit is not a static object you acquire. It is a living, breathing process you inhabit day after day. It is a commitment that you renew every morning when you choose the cold floor over the warm bed. There is an ancient Japanese art form called kintsugi, which means golden joinery. When a piece of valuable pottery breaks, the kintsugi artist does not throw it away. Instead, they meticulously repair the piece, and they use a special lacquer mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum to glue the broken pieces back together. The result is a piece of pottery that is not just repaired, but is more beautiful, more unique, and more valuable than it was before it was broken. The lines of golden repair are not hidden, they are celebrated as a part of the object's history. This is the perfect metaphor for the unbreakable spirit. Your life will have its breaks. You will have your setbacks, your failures, and your heartaches. The path of voluntary hardship is the art of repairing yourself with gold. Every challenge you overcome, every fear you face, every setback you learn from is another line of precious metal, tracing the story of your strength. You are not strong in spite of your scars, you are strong because of them. You become a masterpiece not of perfection but of glorious, golden, unbreakable resilience. This audiobook may be ending, but our shared journey is just beginning. The path of voluntary hardship is not a destination but a direction. It is a lifelong commitment to choosing growth over comfort, meaning over ease, and strength over submission. To continue walking this path together, to receive new insights, and to join a community of fellow travelers who are also learning the art of kintsugi in their own lives. Make sure you are subscribed. The next chapter of your life is waiting to be written. Let us write it together. Now go and lay your next brick.